subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
In this way, even if other people captured this monster and read the monster's memory, they would not be able to know that this monster appeared because of me. Richard didn't want others to discover the connection between these monsters and himself. Otherwise, Richard is likely to be the target of public criticism. Richard is now relieved. For the ability of arrogant story, Richard can also use it more safely. As for other information, it can be reported to the Hunter Association. For example, this monster can freely switch between human and monster forms, but when the spirit is stimulated, it will involuntarily reveal the characteristics of the monster. And the last stimulus a monster wants is disgust and contempt from others. Point 39. Richard solved the picture scroll maze. Get out of the lounge. He waved to a staff member. Grown-ups, Richard said. The criminal has been killed by me, and it's fine. Thank you, sir. The man's face brightened. Dispose of the corpse. 39, yes. Richard returned to his seat. Captain, what happened? Washer Dolong looked over. Do you remember that monster from the restaurant last time? Remember, 39, a monster like that appeared just now, but it has been solved by me. Richard closed his eyes. There was a little interlude in the middle, but it didn't affect much. 55, one thing is certain. Even if this monster is captured, it will not reveal its connection with me. And even these monsters themselves don't know how they came into being. This monster, who calls himself a follower of Dagon and Hydra. 35, also a self-proclaimed follower of the great Cthulhu. Richard thought for a moment. Then the huge creature I saw in the deep sea was Dagon and Hydra, or Cthulhu. Sudden, Richard felt his heart palpitate. I see. Richard opened his eyes. The huge creature in the deep sea should be Cthulhu, because when I meditated on this name, I felt a little palpitations in my heart, but when I meditated on Dagon and Hydra, I didn't. Get off the airship. Richard called Jorn right away. Richard, what's the matter? Senior, about the monster last time, I encountered it again. It was killed by me on the airship. I got some information on this monster. You say, this monster is well hidden. If he doesn't reveal his flaws, he won't be able to see it at all. There may be many more. Not only the one I encountered, those dead monsters, let them learn to hide. However, strong mental stimulation will make him involuntarily reveal the characteristics of a monster. Second, this monster calls itself a deep diver who roams the sea. In addition, I have heard several names, Dagon and Hydra and the Great Cthulhu. Richard didn't hide it, because as long as the deep diver still exists, then the Hunter Association will definitely know this information. There is no connection between these deep divers and Richard. Whether it is dead or alive, it has no effect on Richard. I see. Pion recorded it and said, some of these names have been recorded by the association, and some have not been recorded. I will let the association directly hit your card for the reward for uploading information later. It is good. Richard hung up the phone. It is basically certain that Cthulhu must be the disaster creature of the Dark Continent, and it is the same as the so-called 5 disasters. However, in terms of level, it is definitely higher than the 5 major disasters. Richard recalled the scene he saw last time after he played the Dark Sonata, a giant two-tailed snake, like a mountain, but it was easily solved by the tentacles that stretched out from the void behind him. Both are certainly not ontology. But that fight, you can also see 1 or 2. Captain, what are we auctioning off? Fiery red eye. 35. Richard said, red eye, for 2 reasons. One is that Kurapika's purpose is red eyes. If Richard wants to get red eyes, he will inevitably intersect with Kurapika and then intersect with the melody. From the melody, get the information of the Dark Sonata. The second is that Richard suspects that red eye has something to do with the catastrophic creatures of the Dark Continent. What is that? Human eyes, Richard said. It's a minority called the Kuruda, and their eyes, under normal circumstances, are the same as ordinary human eyes. But when you're emotional, it turns red. Some people combine it with several other things and call it the 7 beauties. 99. Peng Si, you are responsible for the collection of intelligence. Pensy nodded. It is good. Richard's team is not yet mature, but already has 3 members. Richard's role, without a doubt, is that of captain and commander. Doru is a fighting faction. In the Phantom Troop, Yuvijan, Finks have the same positioning. As for Peng Si, it was intelligence acquisition. In the case of battle, Peng Si's talent and developed abilities are a little worse. But such people are also what a team needs. Even Phantom Troop needs people who are not very strong in combat, but have special abilities. Even more important, because there are more none in the fighting faction, and the ability of special auxiliary type is very rare. As the auction date approaches, the whole Ukexin became more and more lively. People keep coming into the city. Tourists, gangsters, buyers, and many more. A figure entered Richard's sight. Young man with short blonde hair. Phantom Troop, Shalnark. To a certain extent, it plays the identity of the military division in the brigade. Good at planning, but not very strong in combat. But the end was tragic and was killed by Hisoka in the toilet. Richard, Pence, why are you here, Lee? Richard turned back. Leorio. Chapter 114, Kurapika's decision. Richard remembered that in the plot, it seemed that Gon and Killua came to Ukexin first, and then Leorio came. Is Gon and Killua already here? Or did the plot change and Leorio came earlier? Leorio came over this way. Leorio, what a coincidence. Leorio said, I made an appointment with Gon and Killua to meet here, and I was very interested in this auction. I didn't expect them to come. I came a little too early. Who is this? Leorio looked at Hua Shirdoru. This is Hua Shirdolong. Leorio had never been to the Sky Arena and didn't know Hua Shirdoru. Hello. Hello. 95 the two shook hands. Leorio asked, Richard, are you also here for the auction? That's right. 99 Richard looked at the coffee shop next to him. Go sit over there and talk. It is good. The four entered the coffee shop and sat down. Leorio, do you have anything you want to buy? No, I'm just here to take a look. I've already got my medical school admission, and I'll have to go to classes after a while. So it's a vacation before I go to school, Leorio said. 99, pretty good. How about you, Richard? What do you want? Richard hesitated. My target auction item is Red Eye. 99 Leorio's pupil shrank. During Hunter's exam, Kurapika didn't show a red eye before Richard's face. Because of Richard's appearance, the fraudster who pretended to be Phantom Troop didn't even have a chance to appear in the Phantom Troop. Therefore, Leorio felt that Richard didn't know that Red Eye had something to do with Kurapika. But Leorio knew that Kurapika was of the Kulita tribe. Leorio quickly hid the change in his expression. Red Eye, what is that? Richard saw Leorio's expression and smiled. Leorio's ability to hide his emotions is really not that great. After a while, Leorio will probably try to contact Kurapika. But that's exactly what Richard wanted to see. That's why Richard directly talks to Leorio with red eyes. An ethnic minority's eyes that turn into a fiery red color when in a state of anger. Some people think that these eyes are very beautiful, and they are called the 7 beauties of the world with several other things. This minority has disappeared, and only a few eyes remain in the world. And I want Red Eye because I suspect that Red Eye has something to do with my recent investigation. Leorio asked subconsciously, What's the matter? Richard smiled and said nothing. It's fate to meet. Let's have a meal together. Dinner is over. The three of Richard went to a nearby hotel. Leorio, on the other hand, silently took out a mobile phone. Hello. 55 Kuraika. Leorio, is something wrong? Where are you now? Kurapika glanced aside and said, I'm at my employer's house. I do have something I want to tell you. I came to Ukexin. Later, I met Richard and Pence here. They told me that the auction item they wanted to get was Red Eye. 5 Kurapika's pupils shrank suddenly. Why? Richard said it was related to what he was investigating, and I asked for specifics. But Richard didn't say .99 Kurapika was silent for a while. I see, Leorio, thank you. Hang up the phone. Kurapika frowned. After that, Kurapika dialed another number. Hisoka. 35, I just got the news that Richard went to Ukexin. The target item is Red Eye. I want to ask you, is there any relationship between Richard and Phantom Troop? No. Richard is not a member of the brigade. Got it, thanks. 35, Kurapika frowned. Why is Richard interested in Red Eye? It has something to do with the investigation. What is it? Kurapika is struggling. On the one hand, Kurapika wondered what Richard was investigating. But on the other hand, Kurapika felt that Richard may be on the opposite side of him. If this is the result, then in this Ukexan incident, Kurapika needs to face Richard in addition to Phantom Troop. The news from Hisoka has been confirmed. Phantom Troop, Ajfa, will go to Ukexan. Richard's strength is not weak at all. Kurapika has heard from Hisoka about Hisoka's defeat at the hands of Richard. Moreover, Kurapika's nun is developed for Phantom Troop. Richard is not a member of Phantom Troop, so Kurapika's nun has no effect on Richard. But as long as Richard's goal is Red Eye, Richard and I will meet. 99. If you meet at night, it's better to meet earlier. In this case, it is better to contact Richard in advance. 35. If it's the enemy, I can plan ahead. It's better not to be an enemy, and I might even be able to get help from Richard. Kurapika made a decision. Leorio, help me get in touch with Richard. The next day, Richard had just woken up when Kurapika's call came in. Hey, Richard, I'm Kurapika. I want to talk to you about the Red Eye. I heard Leorio say that your target auction item this time is also Red Eye. You too. Yes. Kurapika did not reveal his identity of the Cthulhu tribe. Richard smiled. Then it seems that the two of us are competitors. How much money have you prepared? What? I have prepared tens of billions of ringworms, and the Red Eye has a lot to do with what I want to investigate, so Kurapika, the Red Eye at the auction, I can't give it to you. Kurapika was silent for a while. Can we meet? 35, are you in Ukexan? Not yet, but I'll be there soon. Can. Richard gave his hotel address. Hang up the phone. Richard looked out the window. Then the next step is to wait for Kurapika to come. There's a high probability that Kurapika will come with a melody, because the ability of the melody is very special, and he has a good impression of Kurapika. 35. Wait. Melody felt Leorio's heart beating warm, and that's because Leorio himself was that kind of person. 35. Leorio is a healer. 35. And Kurapika, who is full of revenge, and Melody still feels close to Kurapika. Does this prove that Kurapika's Red Eye is more likely to be related to the thief? Even in the power of the dark Sonata. Homologous? 35. Richard's eyes flickered. These 2 days, Huasher Dolong continued to practice Jian. Peng Si, on the other hand, started to collect information about the auction. Start with the internet. After that, bees were sent to sneak into the venue to observe. The auction hasn't started yet, but the president has already begun to arrange. 2 days later, Kurapika has arrived. Richard, I'm at Ukexan. Is it convenient to meet? Can. Chapter 115, The Second Dark Sonata, subscription. Richard only brought pence. On the Kurapika side, as Richard expected, it was the melody. The four meet at a restaurant. A separate private room. Ordered food first. Wait until the dishes are ready. Kurapika locked the door. Richard, you said earlier that we are not from the same world as you. Because of none? That's right. After learning none, and before learning none, it is indeed completely different dash. Kurapika said, Richard, may I ask, why are you red-eyed? Because of what? Most of the reasons are fishing. Richard glanced at Melody calmly. I can tell my reasons, but, as the inquirer, Kurapika, shouldn't you tell me your reason for the red-eye first? Kurapika was silent for a while. Because of the Cthulhu tribe, Richard, since you're interested in flaming eyes, you should know about this tribe, right? 39. I know. The red eyes are the eyes of the Cthulhu people. Yes, I want to investigate the reason why the Cthulhu tribe was exterminated and find those murderers. Kurapika still didn't say anything about his body of the Cthulhu clan, but the above two sentences are not a lie. This is exactly what Kurapika wants to do: kill Phantom Troop and avenge the clan. I see. Before I say my reason, let me tell you something. After the hunter exam, I went on a mission. During this mission, I encountered two monsters transformed from humans. This monster, called the Infected by the Hunter Association. 99. Once you become an infected person, you're the mortal enemy of mankind. Very strong. Also, when I was in the Sky Arena, I also met one. Gon and Killua were both present at the time. You can ask them if you're interested. Kurapika frowned. What does this have to do with Red Eye? Don't you think that fiery red eyes are the infected and the Coludas are monsters? Richard shook his head and said no. Besides the infected, there is one thing, the thief. 35. Whether it is the power of the infected person or the power of the thief, it all comes from some kind of evil existence. But the difference between the thief and the infected person is that the thief's own consciousness is not affected. 35. The thief is simply stealing the power of an evil being. Kurapika frowned. You mean the Coludas are thieves? 39. It's very likely. Richard said, in the blood of human beings, there should be no such power as red eyes, which is obviously not like a human being. Except for the Cave Skull Pagoda, the rest of the human beings do not have this feature. Then, there's a high possibility that the Kaluta clan are the thieves. Kurapika frowned. What Richard revealed was beyond Kurapika's perception. Whether it is an infected person or a thief, it is a term that Kurapika has never heard of. Richard, do you still have detailed information? The detailed information is not without. 35. Richard paused and said, however, the information is exchanged. What information can you give me, Kurapika? Kurapika looked at Melody next to her. Melody's expression was a little nervous, and she shook her head. Kurapika brought the Melody over to let the Melody listen to Richard's heart. But Melody found that she couldn't hear anything. For the first time, Melody found such a situation. Kurapika was silent for a while. Look up. A pair of fiery red eyes appeared in Kurapika's line of sight. I'm from the Kaluta tribe. Pensy was a little surprised. These days, Pong Si has investigated a lot of information about the Kaluta tribe. I didn't expect that there are still people living in the Kaluta tribe. Richard was expressionless. I've already guessed this. Kurapika's pupil shrank. Richard continued. So, it does not constitute an intelligence exchange. Then what do you want? The things I need are related to the infected and the thieves. The information of the cult, yes, and the information of the Dark Sonata, which is also what I want. Melody's pupils shrank. The Melody is no stranger to the name Dark Sonata. The darkness Sonata of dying, which changed the Melody to what is now, gives Melody ability, but ruins Melody's appearance. Melody's expression instantly became terrified. During the Hunter exam, the agreement between me and Hisoka was this. As long as Hisoka found me a Dark Sonata, then I promised to fight Hisoka. Kurapika nodded. He heard about this. After learning none, Kurapika felt how far he was from Richard, Ilmi, and Hisoka. Kurapika glanced at Melody. About the Dark Sonata. The Melody has already spoken to Kurapika. What do you want the Dark Sonata for? It's the same as investigating Red Eye. Suddenly, Melody looked up. You don't understand the danger of the Dark Sonata at all. It's not a force the humans can resist. I just heard a small part, and it became what it is now. Melody took off her hat. All my companions are dead. 99 before, I wasn't like this at all. Listening to the Dark Sonata is the decision I regret the most in my life. 2 lines of tears fell from Melody's eyes. Pence looked at the Melody in surprise. Richard shook his head. Since you know the danger of the Dark Sonata, then you should agree that such a dangerous thing should be destroyed as much as possible. What I want to do is this matter. Can you ruin the Dark Sonata? Melody froze for a moment. I've tried it, and it can't be broken at all. Of course it can be destroyed. Richard looked at Kurapika and said, if you don't believe me, you can ask Hisoka. Hisoka did give me a Dark Sonata, and that Dark Sonata has disappeared. Melody was silent for a while. No, I believe it. If your purpose is really to destroy the Dark Sonata, then I can tell you the news of the Dark Sonata. I know a piece of news about the Dark Sonata. Where? It used to be in the hands of my friend, but with the death of my friend, that Dark Sonata was in the hands of others. And the news I heard was that the Dark Sonata had arrived at Meteor Street. Meteor Street. Richard frowned. This place, one of the few places that Richard remembers fondly. Because here, almost the world, the most chaotic area, the world's garbage dump, or where Phantom Troop came from. At the same time, it is also the first place where the protagonist appears in many fan novels. In Meteor Street, in the hands of a man named Harold. But I can't guarantee it. It's still there. Richard nodded. Never mind, that's enough. 35. I'll tell you more about the thief after I get the Dark Sonata. In Chapter 116, go to Meteor Street. Go to Meteor Street. Doru was stunned. Why? Because there's one thing I have to investigate, the Dark Sonata, and today I just got the information that the red-eye matter is not so urgent. Richard is just suspicious of fiery red-eye, and he suspects that fiery red-eye is influenced by calamity creatures. However, the role of the Dark Sonata, Richard has verified, can improve your crazy Sonata ability. After absorbing a copy of the Dark Sonata, the intensity of the mental pollution of the crazy Sonata was significantly increased. Compared to the picture scroll of greed, the effect of the crazy Sonata is now far beyond. Also, the auction will be held for more than half a month. Maybe we can come back in time to participate. Richard made a call. It was the sick dog who answered the phone. Hey, I'm Richard. The sick dog was stunned for a moment. That we haven't finished dealing with the singed manor, but the first part of the money has already been credited to your card. It's not about money. 35, that is. I need a map of Meteor Street, as well as information on the various forces inside. 5. The sick dog was silent for a while. What are you going to do? You don't need to worry about it. You just need to give me what I want, and it can be deducted from the 50 billion ringgits. 35. The sick dog hesitated. No, it's just some worthless information. I'll give you the information right away. It's troublesome. If you want to know about Meteor Street, it must be Maggie. However, Maggie regards Meteor Street as her home to Meteor Street and accepts various tasks, and most of the rewards are provided to Meteor Street for free. Because Maggie wants to change Meteor Street. Richard asked Maggie for information on Meteor Street. Maggie didn't know whether Richard was well-meaning or malicious, so she would start from the perspective of Meteor Street and would not give Richard too much information. But the Een Beast has the completely opposite attitude. In the plot, Phantom Troop will kill the 10 old men, which proves that the contradiction between Meteor Street and the world's gangsters has reached a fevered level, and it is definitely not a momentary headache for Phantom Troop. The Een Beast is on the side of the world gang. Richard wants to go to Meteor Street. The Een Beast will feel that Richard is very likely to be detrimental to Meteor Street. At this time, Een Beast will provide more detailed information. Not long after, Richard received an email, a map showing several major power groups. Meteor Street is divided into several areas, and the rulers of a region are called elders. A dozen elders formed the elders group together. Richard didn't find Harold's name on it. Then only an elder's area has been found. The information on the map is not limited to the elders, but also some lower-level forces, but there is no name of Phantom Troop. With the strength of Phantom Troop, it will not be under these small forces, but the people of the world's gangster do not know, which proves that this may be deliberately done by Meteor Street. Phantom Troop, with the elders, made some sort of agreement. The next day, the three left the hotel, took the airship, and came to the city near Meteor Street. A gang member received the 3 of Richard. Is that Mr. Richard? Yes. 99, please come with me. 35, the young people were a little afraid of Richard and the 3 of them. Singe's death in the outside world, not many people understand. However, the gangsters know very well. That is the top of the world gang, the spire of the pyramid. It's not at all comparable to a small character like him. But Richard, just one person, rushed into Singed's manor and killed Singed, along with the entire manor. How terrifying this is. For a time, the mentality of many young gang members was shaken. Identification with gangsters has declined. Tonight, we can take you there. Trouble. No trouble. No trouble. Richard was far away and saw the Gakiang, a dividing line. The Meteor Street and the outside are divided into 2 worlds. The outside and the inside are completely different. Doru's side. I didn't expect this world to have such a place. 35 from the information given by the sick dog and the information collected by Peng Si. Dolong has a general concept of Meteor Street. I have some sympathy for the experience of the people in Meteor Street. Richard wanted to say something, but suddenly thought of the Dark Continent. Richard feels that the situation of the human world to the Dark Continent is similar to the situation of Meteor Street to the human world. Have a good rest. we're going to leave tonight. No one knows what the situation in Meteor Street is like, so be prepared to fight at any time. Huasher Dolong and Peng Si's expressions became serious. Yes, somewhere, Richard had a bad premonition. Richard opened his eyes and frowned. Could it be that this operation will not go well? Richard didn't quite know how this feeling came about. It got dark. A burst of footsteps suddenly sounded outside the door. Despair. Crack. 39 crack. 35. The sound of footsteps gave people a wet feeling. Richard looked out the door subconsciously. The footsteps stopped. Richard came behind the door. Walked slowly. Richard saw that a water stain had penetrated through the crack of the door. The situation seemed very strange. Round. Richard unfolded his circle, and now Richard's circle has reached a radius of 10 meters. As long as everything is within the radius of 10 meters, Richard can perceive it. But this time, Richard felt nothing. Crack. 9. Despair. Despair. The footsteps sounded again. Still wet. Richard looked away. A qualified hunter should not act rashly when he is not clear about the situation. Kate, who made this mistake and brought Gon and Killua with her, died at the hands of Neferkta. What? Can't even perceive a circle? After a while, there was a knock on the door. Bang, bang, bang. Richard still uses circles for 5.0. This time, it can be clearly perceived that there's a person standing outside. It is the young man in the daytime. Richard opened the door. Mr. Richard, the car is ready. Richard nodded. Huasher Dolong, Peng Si set off. Yes. The two came behind Richard. Go downstairs. Richard deliberately looked at the floor of the corridor, and there was no water stain at all. Has anything weird happened to you here? Strange things? The young man froze for a moment and shook his head. Number 99, that's it. 99, Richard glanced back at the building. The car engine starts. The young man sat in the driver's seat. The co-pilot is Hua Shidoru. Richard and Pence sat in the back row. Mr. Richard, shall we go now? Can Chapter 1, 17 Weird and Garbage Mountain through the high wall. Richard felt that uncomfortable feeling suddenly disappear. This reminded Richard of the footsteps. In this way, my ominous premonition is not this operation against Meteor Street, but that thing. Richard glanced back. Those gang members, I am afraid they will not have a very good experience. However, Richard didn't know what that thing was either. After this Meteor Street incident, asked Piorn, she may know something. The car stopped. Mr. Richard, I can only send you here. This is already the area of Meteor Street. As long as you don't take the initiative to reveal your identity, no one should notice you. But if you are noticed, it will be very troublesome. The people here are very exclusive. Richard nodded. I see, correct. Richard reminded. As for the previous building, if you can't go, it's better not to go. This is my advice. It's a small thank you. After all, you arranged the 09 process for us to enter Meteor Street very well. What? The young man was stunned. It's not clear, but it's an intuition. The young man nodded. Goodbye. The three of Richard walked deeper into Meteor Street. The youth left the range of Meteor Street. What's in this building? 55. By the way, Mr. Richard asked me before, did anything strange happen? Is it that Richard sees something in it that shouldn't exist? Or heard something that shouldn't have been heard? Unconsciously, the young man has returned downstairs. Upstairs, a middle-aged man came out. Mission completed? Finished. Then hurry up and rest. There are other tasks tomorrow. The young man took a step forward and stopped suddenly. Look up. Richard's words echoed in the youth's mind. The young man suddenly felt that the building in front of him had become unfamiliar. A strange, dangerous aura slowly emanated. Still go to the side. The young man walked to the next building. Here is also the base of the gang members. The three of Richard changed their clothes to suit the characteristics of Meteor Street to make themselves look ordinary. In this direction, about 40 kilometers, there will be a city built by an elder. Let's go here first. Richard walked ahead. Meteor Street is huge. Nominally, it's just a street, just a dump. But the area of Meteor Street is even bigger than some countries. Here, it can even be regarded as a separate world. A peculiar smell came. The air here is terrible. Living in such a place all year round is extremely painful. Even if you do nothing, your body will continue to deteriorate. Disease-ridden. But for a lot of people here, sickness isn't a problem at all, because they can't even satisfy basic food. Most people spend their entire lives rummaging through the garbage for food. What those outsiders don't want. A roar sounded. Richard looked up and saw an airship. Huge airship. What is on it is not people or goods, but rubbish. The airship stopped in midair. Below is a huge mountain of garbage. Many people are still rummaging on the mountain of garbage. And at this moment, an opening left under the airship. Countless rubbish poured down. Some people are directly buried in landfills. However, no one cares. The people below are cheering in joy because new garbage represents resources, food and money. To keep them alive, Washer Dolong and Peng Si were both shocked by this scene. Too bad. The two had never seen such a scene before. Is this Meteor Street? Richard looked away. Come on, this is not something we can change. Go on a mission. 9, and at this time, suddenly, a roar sounded. Is a car. A truck. A dozen people stood on it. On the mountain of garbage, countless people heard the sound of the truck and ran away quickly. Go away. This garbage mountain was contracted by our crocodile gang. 35, most of the people in Trash Mountain fled. But there are still a few, not as fast as they go, but desperately in the garbage mountain, scouring for things. Look in the direction of the truck. Not that they're not afraid, but they have no way. Without food, it is the same as death. Boom! A shot went off. On the truck, a young man showed a disgusted expression. Everything has been said. This has been contracted by our crocodile gang. Another shot was fired in succession. Several figures fell one after another. A whimper sounded. A child was crying in front of a middle-aged corpse, probably his father. Richard frowned. Meteor Street chaos, Richard agrees. But as members of Meteor Street, is it too much to kill compatriots like this? Even the little ones are not spared. Richard saw a person in the truck and had raised his gun at the child. The person next to him didn't mean to stop it, but laughed happily. These scumbags. Washer Dolong said something vicious. When Richard looked at the truck, the people in the truck also looked at the three of Richard. Some, raising their guns, took aim. Richard frowned. These people even want to do it with the three of them? The three of them did not walk in the direction of the garbage mountain at all. Richard shook his head. If you're courting death, then you can't blame me. 99 Richard didn't really want to make trouble. This time, it is very important. After getting the Dark Sonata, Richard's 020 strength will be improved again. However, Richard has not yet reached the point where others point guns at him and want to shoot, but he doesn't respond. Richard thought for a moment. A recorder appeared in his hand. Boom! A series of bullets shot at everyone on the truck. Immediately, someone fell. At this time, the people on the truck also shot at Richard. Washer Dolong stepped forward, blocked the front, and turned into a meat shield. Strong. The bullet landed on Washer Doru's body. It made Washer Dolong's expression grim. But that's all. These bullets only made Washer Doru feel some pain, but they could not break the defense of Washer Doru. But Washer Dolong could block their bullets. But they couldn't stop Richard's thoughts, even if it was made by Burrow's death thought. Not strong. However, these are ordinary people who can't even read. Another person fell from the truck. Blood splashes. Richard retracted the recorder. At this time, most of the people on the truck fell down. Only one remains. This was left on purpose by Richard alive. Washer Dolong captured him alive. Yes. Washer Dolong rushed over fiercely. Richard and Pince were behind, slowing down a bit. As you approach, observe the surroundings. Chapter 118 Bad Boy, forgive me, forgive me. Richard pointed the recorder at the driver. Use the face shadow ability to create a doll. Immediately, Mian Ying's thought of death used the driver's memory to create several dolls. It was the people in the truck. The puppet came to the corpse, took the eyes of those corpses, and turned into a realized state. But in terms of strength, it didn't actually improve much. 6/10 of 10 is only 6. Compared to these people, the three Richards are already 100 or even more than 1,000. But in the realized state, more memories will be obtained. Peng Si, Washer Dolong, ask these dolls for information about Meteor Street and ask them if they know Harold. Yes. The three questions separately. This will be more efficient. Richard personally came to the front of the rock. Have you heard the name Harold? Listen, heard of it. The driver's eyes rolled quickly. But Richard's face sank, because Richard judged that this guy had never heard of it at all and was just lying and stalling for time. Boom! A bullet entered the middle-aged head. The inquiry is over. Huasher Dolong and Peng Si came to Richard. How? Has anyone heard the name Harold? 35, no. A figure came over here. Richard looked over. It was the kid just now. Big brother, big sister, thank you. You saved me. Otherwise, I would be killed by them like my father. Huasher Dolong waved his hand. You are welcome. That, big brother, can I leave with you? Take me to other places. No matter where, if I stay here, they will definitely kill me. Nine, the child, looked at the corpse on the ground. Is there any gathering place here? Yes, there's one to the west, very close. Richard nodded. Then let's go together. Huasher Dolong, you drive. Good. 35, Huasher Dolong got into the driver's seat. This truck already belongs to Richard. Those dolls, Richard did not let them disappear, but stayed in the carriage of the truck. Big brother, what is that? The child looked at the dolls curiously. The corpse was seen by the child. You can think of it as a special ability. 35, Meteor Street will be none, not a few, but this child is not in this ranks. So Richard uses a way that is easier for children to understand. Can I learn this special ability? Okay. Then, big brother, can you teach me? No. Oh. Richard glanced at the child and frowned. Richard didn't notice it before, but when I think about it now, Richard thinks that this kid is very strange and has too much courage. 3 of them, but just killed more than a dozen people. Isn't this kid scared at all? Moreover, this child has just died of his father. Even if this is Meteor Street, but at least, shouldn't this child find a way to dispose of his father's body? Richard thought for a moment. Boom! A hand knife fell. The child groaned and fainted. Afterwards, Richard took out his recorder. Using face shadows, making puppets. Next moment, children's dolls were created. Tell me, what is the purpose of you following us? The puppet kid answered. I want to live. Live, and then what? 35, then take revenge. Who to seek revenge? The crocodile gang, and the 3 of you. Richard frowned. Hearing this sentence, Peng Si couldn't help but look over. The 3 of us? Why? Because you can obviously take action earlier. As long as you take action earlier, my father doesn't have to die. You're the one who killed my father. Richard smiled. This statement is really unreasonable, but also not fresh. Richard has heard many such thoughts. Desire is too big. Want too much. Kindness will be revenge. There have always been many such people, no matter which world. But Richard did not expect that such a child would have such an idea. Very scary. No wonder. Now Richard knew why this kid was so calm and could get close to the 3 of them. Because of the power of hatred. Richard continued. Are you trying to kill the 3 of us? 35, the puppet kid nodded. Yes. Richard looked at Peng Si and Huasher Dolong. Peng Si. Huasher Dolong. What do you think should be done? 35. It was decided that Richard had already made it, and Richard just wanted to know what Peng Si and Huasher Dolong thought. Kill it. Peng Si looked at the child, and no longer had the sympathy she had before. Me too. 99, Huasher Doru, is very depressed. I never thought that the child I wanted to save would actually say such a thing. Richard held the child by the neck in one hand, opened the door, and took the child out of the car door. After, bang! 35, a bullet shot into the child's head. The child died in a coma before he woke up. This is already a merciful way to die. Determined that the child's life was completely gone, Richard let go of his hand. Bang! 35, the child's body fell to the ground, rolling constantly because of inertia. A gathering place appeared in front of Richard. Stop! Pincy, you control the bees. Go check the situation first. Dos masi. Dos. Yes. 35, several bees flew out. But only one, which was special, shared sight with Pensy. Following Peng Si's control, he headed towards the gathering place. How about it? It seems to be a very open area, as long as people can enter, but they need a hand in tickets, and no identity checks will be carried out. Many people trade here. Order is not bad. 99, Richard nodded. Huasher Dolong, you, and I get off the bus. Peng Si, you wait here. If there's a situation, use the bee to contact me. Yes. 35 Richard and Huasher Dolong got out of the car and walked towards the gathering place. Handed in tickets. Is currency. Here is also the circulation of money. Richard found some cash from the crocodile gang. After entering and outside, it is a completely different feeling. It seems to be entering an ordinary flea market. Very peaceful. Can't see it at all. This is Meteor Street. People's actions were not particularly hurried. Some people's eyes are on Richard and Hua Shidu. Good Jiaolang. Even if the two have already made a disguise. But still someone can see that the two are different from the others. In addition, there are few unfamiliar faces in the gathering place. However, they did not regard Richard and Huasher Dolong as people outside of Meteor Street, but as people in the Elder City. The city ruled by the Elders is much brighter than other areas of Meteor Street. It is very similar to the outside of Meteor Street. An old man greeted him. Two adults. Are you here to investigate something? Richard's eyes flickered. This man must have misunderstood something. Do you think you two are elders? However, this misunderstanding was exactly what Richard wanted. Have you ever heard of a man named Harold? Harold? Your lord. Is there any other information besides this name? Not up. The old man hesitated. Then can I take the liberty to ask, what crime did this person commit? Steal one thing, a sheet of music. Chapter 119, The Diviner, Lockhart, so I really haven't heard of it. Except for the two adults in our gathering place. No unfamiliar faces have appeared recently. But what? The old man's eyes flickered and his voice was lowered. However, I have a person with special abilities here. As long as you know a part of the information, you can get the approximate location of this person. The more information, the more accurate it will be. Richard's eyes lit up. This nun is very special. Quite rare. Bring this man here. 35 this. The old man made a hesitant expression, rubbed his thumb and index finger lightly, and looked at Richard with a smile. Richard immediately understood what the old man meant. All the money found from the members of the crocodile gang was handed over to the old man. The benefits are indispensable to you. The old man took the money and said, Sir, what I want is not money. Richard frowned. For free? What are you going to do without the money? My lord, I want a residence permit in the Elder City. To tell you the truth, that person is my grandson. When Richard heard this sentence, he knew that he had guessed correctly. This person really regarded himself and Hua Sherdalong as the subordinates of the elder. As long as the information is accurate, it's not a problem. Thank you, sir. The old man looked happy. Sir, please come with me. The old man took Richard and Huasher Dolong to the edge of the gathering place, until a tattered and dirty tent. Lockhart, come out. A 037 figure climbed out of the tent and was young, less than 10 years old. The whole body was dirty and had a stench. Washerdoru did not have sympathy this time. Washerdoru was disappointed by the previous child's incident. Grandpa, 35 Richard glanced around. Is there a quieter place? This way. The old man pointed to a wooden house not far away. This is where I live. Usually no one is near. 5 Richard frowned. This guy, living in such a good place by himself, let his grandson live in such a messy tent? However, Richard didn't say much. Go in. Richard gestured to Huasher Dolong and asked Huasher Dolong to watch from outside. Entering the wooden house were the old man, Richard, and 3 young men. Richard looked at the old man. Start asking. 5 information I got from my investigation is that this person used the name Harold and Ajfa. He stole something called Dark Sonata. Just those 2 pieces of information. The old man nodded and looked at the young man. Lockhart, start your divination. A reluctant expression appeared on Lockhart's face, but under the gaze of the old man, he took out a crystal ball from his arms and placed the crystal ball flat in front of him. Richard's eyes narrowed slightly. This crystal ball gave Richard a strange feeling. The boy held the crystal ball in his hands. After that, closed his eyes. A strange breath was released from the boy's body and entered the crystal ball. Next moment, a red dot appeared on the crystal ball. Go west. Sudden. The boy spat out a mouthful of blood. The old man's expression changed. Keep talking. 121 more time. 9. The boy spat out a mouthful of blood again. This time, the young man fainted directly to the ground. And no matter how much the old man shouted, There was no response. My lord, I'm sorry. Lockhart's abilities have very strong side effects. Richard waved his hand and interrupted the old man. How much accuracy can Lockhart's ability guarantee? Half. Only half. Yes. Half is worth trying. 35. Richard glanced at the boy on the ground and walked out of the wooden house. I will go to the place, Lockhart said. As long as I find Harold and take back the Elder's things, then I will come back here and give you permanent residence in the Elder City. Thank you, sir. The old man looked happy. Richard and Huasher walked out. The figures of the two disappeared from the sight of the old man. The old man clenched his fists. Finally, get out of this hellish place. But then the old man's face sank again. Enter the cabin. The boy was dragged out and thrown on the ground. Damn, dirty my house. If it weren't for the fact that you still have some use, I would kill you now. The old man stuffed the boy into the messy tent. After that, go back to your log cabin. Boom! The door closed tightly. At this time, the young man has not woken up. Richard turned back. Wake up! Richard pushed the boy. After hesitating, take out a little food. Smelling the aroma of the food, the boy opened his eyes. I really want to eat. But looking at Richard, he was terrified. Obviously, this young man must have suffered countless abuses before. Such a reaction occurs. Eat. Richard put the food on the ground. The boy jumped up and swallowed. I ask you a question, and as long as you answer, I'll give you something to eat. How about it? The young man hesitated and nodded. What's your name? Lockhart. The boy's voice was low. What does that old man have to do with you? He adopted me. Isn't it your real grandpa? No. Richard nodded. In this way, the attitude of the old man can be explained. The old man regards Lockhart as a tool. However, even if it is used as a tool, the actions of the old man are too much. Divination, is it your ability? The young man nodded. How accurate is it? Not necessarily. The known information is different. The target to be divination is different. The accuracy will be different. 35. What about the one just now? 39, 80%. 35 so tall. Richard frowned. If you say 50% is worth trying, then 80% you must go. What is the price of divination? The young man shook his head and said, I only know that after the divination, I will become weaker, as if something has been taken away from me. But just take a break for a while. Apart from that, nothing else? No. Richard guessed that the ability of this boy was similar to that of Nyan among the world's gangsters. Neither learns none. Due to some unexpected factor, none was awakened again. If the key is not enough, then the life energy will come together. That's why Lockhart becomes weak. When they learn none, there will be no such serious side effects. Now I give you a choice. Follow me and join my team. I'll treat you like a mate. The boy raised his head. Won't you hit me? 5 won't. Then can I eat enough? Certainly. I promise. There was a glimmer of hope in the boy's eyes. Very well, Lockhart. You are welcome to join us. Richard let out a smile. Chapter 124. The fourth ability. Lockhart's abilities are really rare. But Richard is not because of Lockhart's ability. He will compromise with Lockhart infinitely. After Lockhart joins the team, Richard will also inspect it. If Lockhart can't pass the inspection, then Richard will expel Lockhart, or even kill him. Lockhart, what do you want to do with that old man? Lockhart hesitated. That's it. After all, he gave me food. Richard nodded. Okay, let's go now. 39 Hua, Doru walked out from the other side. The old man is dead. Lockhart can forgive the old man and leave the old man with his life. But the old man was alive, which had an impact on Richard's actions this time. Richard didn't want to cause a lot of trouble. Plus, the old man should be damned. The three of Richard walked out of the gathering place. Many eyes looked over, but it was quickly withdrawn. Mind your own business is an important rule of survival in Meteor Street. Big brother, where are we going? Go drive. Richard looked forward. Sudden, a dozen figures appeared in Richard's sight. These people around the truck. Pin stood on top of the truck. Huasher Dolong just wanted to rush over. And at this time, bang! 55A series of explosions sounded. Richard knows. This is Pence's third nun, exploding bees. Inject the mind into the body of the bee, so that the bee has the ability to self-destruct. Because of the existence of thoughts, the self-destruction of bees will become very powerful. No worse than normal bullets. Immediately, all the people around the truck fell down. The locations where the self-destructing bees attacked are all the key points of these people. Richard glanced at Lockhart. Lockhart's expression was calm, and he didn't seem to be surprised by such a thing. Richard, 99 Pence's eyes lit up when she saw the three of Richard. You're finally back. This is... Pence looked at Lockhart. This is Lockhart with divination. Pensy nodded. Richard looked at the corpse on the ground. Who are these people? It's the crocodile gang that recognized the car. Richard nodded. Lockhart has foresighted the location of the thing I need, so let's go there now. Hwasher Dolong, you drive. Yes. Lockhart sat in the passenger seat. Richard looked at the crystal ball in Lockhart's hand. Lockhart, can you show me the crystal ball in your hand? Yes. 35 Lockhart handed the crystal ball over. Richard took it. Get started. A chill. A strange aura emanated from the crystal ball. Richard felt it. Above this crystal ball, there's an aura similar to a dark Sonata. Not the same, but relatively similar. Does this mean that this crystal ball is also a medium for disaster creatures? The reason why Lockhart has this divination ability is because of this crystal ball. 5 Richard felt a force overflowing from the crystal ball and extending towards his arm. In an instant, it came to his mind. Boom! Richard only felt a bang, and the scene in front of him suddenly changed. I came to a very primitive forest. A raw, threatening aura came. Richard looked up. A huge sphere just floated in midair, like an airship, but much bigger than an airship. The surface of the sphere is densely packed, with countless eyes growing. A bird creature approaches the sphere. Sudden, an eye above the sphere opens. Countless black silk threads swept toward the bird. Pierce, rap. Next moment, shrinks suddenly. The bird was inhaled by the sphere. There was a sound of chewing. Richard watched silently. At this moment, a pair of eyes opened and looked in the direction of Richard. There was a moment of hesitation in his eyes. Countless black lines extended towards Richard. A tentacle extended from Richard's back. Those black silk threads were directly destroyed and corroded. Soon the tentacles extended to the huge sphere. There was a sound of eating. The huge sphere seemed to be calling for help, but to no avail. Nothing could save him from the giant tentacles. Finally, the giant sphere disappeared. Richard's consciousness returned to the real world. Crack. 35. A crack appeared on the crystal ball. 0. Asked for flowers. 0. Lockhart turned back. Boom! The crystal ball turned into countless pieces. Lockhart's eyes widened. Richard said, "Your ability is largely due to this crystal ball, and the side effects also appear because of this. When I touched this crystal ball just now, that power was also trying to infect me." 5. Lockhart opened his mouth. Then I don't have the ability to divination? What Lockhart was worried about was not that he had no divination ability, but that after the lack of divination ability, whether Richard's team would ask him to join him, Lockhart would not be able to survive alone. You may not be able to use it now, but after training, you should be able to get this ability back, and you don't need to pay such a big side effect. But whether you have the ability to divination or not, my previous promise will not change. Lockhart breathed a sigh of relief. Big brother, thank you. 35. No. Anyway, this thing is broken because of me. A 120-kilometer drive takes a lot of time. Especially, here is Meteor Street. The road is very difficult to walk. Richard closed his eyes. My fourth nun, here comes. Absorb the crystal ball. 35. Now, there is no doubt that this crystal ball is indeed the medium of disaster creatures, and it is the same thing as the Dark Sonata. So is there something similar around Nyan? Nyan, like Lockhart, has the ability before learning to read. After returning to Ukexin, you can go and have a look. Richard opened his eyes. A touch of black appeared in Richard's eyes. I have angry. As long as I activate the eyes of anger, the other party and I are watching, then this ability will take effect on the other party, and black lines will grow from the other party's body. 55, similar to what appeared in that giant sphere's eye. These black lines are under my control. The angrier the other side, the longer and tougher the line. 99. Even relying on these lines, I can completely tie the other side down. An elder city appeared in the sight of everyone. Huasher Dolong, 120 kilometers. Have you arrived yet? It's coming soon. Richard nodded. From this point of view, Harold should be in this elder city. Get off, let's walk in. Yes, and Chapter 121 Music Score News. Seeking to follow, the four got out of the car. About the elder city, Richard has already learned about it. The information given by the sick dog is there. From members of the crocodile gang, Richard also learned something. The elder city is a city that belongs to the elders. One elder, one city, equivalent to the core area of Meteor Street. The people who live here are the upper-class people of Meteor Street. It's not much different from outside, but it is very difficult to obtain the residence qualification of the elder city, or have enough strength to be valued by the elders and become the elders' subordinates, or have enough money to buy permanent residency. These two types can be regarded as residents of the elder city, but there are still many people who cannot meet these two requirements, but they want to enter the elder city again. As a result, the City of Elders has withdrawn from another policy. Temporary residence permit. The long one is 1 year, and the short one is 1 month. With a temporary residence permit, you can stay overnight and stay in the elder city. And if not, once it is found out, there is only one result. D. There is no law here. Everything is up to the elders. Richard walked to a building next to the city gate. I want to buy 4 one-month temporary residence permits. A 100,000 ringgit. Richard counted his cash and was a little short. The cash outside, Richard didn't bring in, was too clean and would reveal its contents. The ones collected from the crocodile gang were much worse. Add this. Richard took out a watch. Yes, 35. The other party looked at it and nodded. 4 temporary residence permits were handed out. Richard took it. Enter the elder city. It's really not that different from the town outside. There are some outside, almost all here. Find a hotel first. Richard found a hotel that seemed to be cleaner, and the price was more expensive than that in the outside world. But this is normal. After all, Meteor Street resources are much scarcer. There are only a few channels for outside resources to enter. Huasher Dolong, you take Lockhart to buy 2 suits of clothes. It is good. Richard and Pence took advantage of this time to take a bath first. When Huasher Dolong and Lockhart came back, Richard and Pence were already sitting on the sofa. Can I take a bath by myself? Lockhart hesitated before nodding. Then go. If you have any questions, just talk. Yes, big brother. 99. Richard looked out the window. 80% chance. Then basically, there will be no mistakes. 5. Harold, right in this city. After a while, Lockhart came out. I've done washing. It's almost completely changed from before. Sudden. Richard frowned. Are you a girl? Yes. Lockhart lowered his head, blushing a little. Richard couldn't help but glance at Huasher Dolong. Just now, Richard also planned that if Lockhart encountered a problem, he would let Huasher Dolong enter the bathroom and help Lockhart. If he did that, he would be embarrassed. Hearing Lockhart's answer, Peng Si and Huasher Dolong's expressions changed slightly. The two hadn't seen Lockhart's gender before either. It's not that you can't see it, it's that you don't see it. That Lockhart isn't your real name? No. Lockhart shook his head and said, This is the name he gave me. The name my father gave me. It's Betty. 5. The one Lockhart was referring to was the old man. Already died in the gathering place. Then let's call you Betty. It is good. The sky gradually darkened. The 4 of Richard came out of the hotel. Pence, you take Betty to a restaurant to eat something. Huasher Dolong, let's go to the tavern to have a look. Richard made arrangements. No matter which world you are in, a chaotic place like a tavern is a good place to inquire about news. People are mixed. Some gossip is easy to spread. Richard didn't start asking right away. During the hunter exam before, Richard was cheated once. That man was too daring, and if Richard hadn't kept an eye out for it, that time might have been wasted. On the 3rd day, Richard began to inquire. Found a messenger. It was a thin old man. His eyes rolled quickly, and he looked very shrewd. This guest, what news do you need? I want to find someone. This man used a name called Harold, and he had a very precious sheet of music in his hands. 5. Harold? The old man's eyes flickered. I've never heard of that name, but what? But you said precious sheet music. I've heard of it. Tell me the story. It's a big man in town, 0. The old man lowered his voice and said, That was 3 years ago. This person suddenly rose up from an ordinary scavenger. After entering the Elder City, he immediately obtained a lot of resources and wealth. I even got the favor of the elders and became one of the best figures under the elders. Some people say that this man has risen because of a musical score. Richard nodded. It is quite possible that this man got his strength from the dark sonata and, like the melody, became a thief. Those with such abilities will naturally be favored by the elders. The melody ability is very useful. The ability of this person is not too bad. What is this person's name? Where's the location? Richard took out a piece of gold. The old man looked happy. This person is Bonaparte, and he lives in a manor in the northeast. As long as you go to the northeast, you can see his manor. Thanks. Richard got up. The old man walked out of the room. And at this time, a figure walked out from behind Richard, exactly the same as the old man. This is a puppet created by Richard using the ability of the face. For the old man, Richard didn't quite believe it. Have you really never heard the name Harold? 35, I heard. 39, Richard's pupils shrank. Who is he? Harold is the name of the elder of this elder city, who used to use it. Then why do you want me to go to Bonaparte? Because your 5.0 seems to be against the elders. Therefore, I will attract Bonaparte. I will tell the elders about this matter, and then the elders will send people to set up traps. Once you go, there must be no return. Richard frowned. Who's got the sheet music? I don't know what sheet music. Who is that Bonaparte? 35. Bonaparte is only the most powerful person under the elders. When Richard thought about it, the dull old man disappeared. Beside, Washer DeLong has a serious expression. I didn't expect it to be a liar. This was not unexpected by Richard. After all, this is Meteor Street. Cheating is just a normal thing. It's actually lucky for us to meet this old man. 35, at least you know right away whose hands are the real things. And now we'll just count on it. Chapter 122, what you said just now, but triple some bees circle the sky above the Elder City. Richard, Washer DeLong, Peng Si, standing on the roof of a building. Betty, on the other hand, was left in the hotel. Tonight's action, Betty has no effect. Peng Si, how is the situation? As you expected, Richard, the old man immediately went to the elder's manor to report. After that, many people walked out of the elder's manor and went to Bonaparte's manor. Richard nodded. It seems that they don't know that we already know their plan. It is a good thing for us to transfer the people from the elder manor so that we can enter the elder manor more easily. As for Bonaparte, 39, Pence, you control some self-destructing bees to get their attention. Pence nodded. It is good. Richard looked at Washer DeLong again. Washer DeLong, you stay here and support at any time. Captain, did you sneak into the elder manor alone? I am alone. Richard looked in the direction of the elder manor and said, too many people will attract attention. For diving, Richard already has experience. That singed manor, Richard easily sneaked into it. Face Shadow's puppet ability 09 is a very useful ability, not a frontal fight. However, access to intelligence is top-notch. Even if it is impossible to obtain all the memories of the ontology, it is enough that the nearby memories can be obtained. The difficulty of sneaking into the Elder Manor may be greater than that of Singed Manor, but not by much. After all, the world gangsters have an advantage in facing Meteor Street. Phantom Troop, strictly speaking, is not a subordinate of the Elders. Richard speculates that it may be more of a cooperative relationship. The none in this Elder Manor, no matter how strong, are limited. Boom! The explosion sounded. The self-destructing bee at the Bonaparte estate begins to explode. Immediately, everyone's attention was drawn to the past. Countless people searched for traces of the intruder. The old man of the day was standing beside Bonaparte. My lord, as I said, they will definitely come. 5 Bonaparte nodded. You did a good job. When you catch those few people, the elders will definitely reward you well. 35 The old man gave a flattering smile. And at this time, Richard came to the corner of the Elder Manor. A patrol passed by. Hidden. Richard hid. Until the last one. Strengthened tongue. A phantom popped out of Richard's recorder. This member of the patrol was captured by Richard. Make dolls. Richard controlled the puppet and followed. The patrol did not notice that something was wrong. Richard, on the other hand, started the torture. Not long after, Richard snapped the other's neck. The Elder's Manor is divided into two parts. The defense of the outer garden is average, and it is relatively easy to pass through. But the inner garden is very different. Even these guards don't know. 35, there are guards inside, completely different, very indifferent like a machine. Richard looked in, his eyes twinkling. They should be the dead soldiers trained by the elders. 39, but as long as there are puppets with the ability of the face, I can still get their information. Face Shadow's puppet ability is a nemesis for the dead. Richard came to the inner garden from a crack. As in the outer garden, Richard grabs a person and prepares to use his doll-making ability on this person. But this group of gas condensed to half, and it failed. Richard froze for a moment. Next moment, I saw countless people swarming here. The ability to be immune to face shadows. This is the first time such a thing has happened. And not only that, the other party was not only immune to the ability of the face, but even silently notified the other guards that at this moment, Richard had been surrounded. Un spatial nain. There was a different sound of footsteps. Richard looked up and saw a fat man walking towards him. The fat man had a smile on his face. I knew you wouldn't be so easily fooled. Introduce myself. I'm Harold. Harold looked at Richard. And you, the one who killed the world gangster, one of the 10 old men, Richard of Singed? Richard stood up. You know me? Unfortunately, I just got this news from the world gangster not long ago. I didn't expect you to appear in Meteor Street, and also in my city. Then what do you want to do now? In this way, before Richard and the old man contacted, Harold's people had seen Richard. However, Harold still let his people go to Bonaparte Manor. And now that Richard was surrounded, Harold was not attacked. I want to negotiate a deal with you. What deal? The people who brought you to Meteor Street are the people from the world's gangsters. I heard about your business. You, Singed, are a personal vendetta. Being able to break into Singed Manor alone and kill Singed is enough to see your strength. The 10 old men must also value you. Let you sneak into Meteor Street to kill us elders. I don't ask how many conditions the 10 old men gave you. No matter how much they gave you, I will give you 3 times. Richard frowned. This Harold obviously misunderstood something. I'm still a little careless. Unexpectedly, Harold's guards could be immune to the ability of face shadows. However, he did not expect that Harold would actually think that he was sent by the 10 old men. Also want to reverse delegate to myself. In this case, it may be smoother than Richard originally planned. You don't even need to fight. Then what do you want me to do? Kill 10 old men. 037, no, kill the Ean Beast. All, if you can kill them all, it's naturally the best. Then what can you give me? What do you want? As long as I can come up with it, women, money, and even a position in Meteor Street. As long as you want, I can give it to you. 35, I need the Dark Sonata. Richard said, a Dark Sonata? I will help you kill a man. .95 Harold was taken aback. It turns out that the 10 old men asked you to kill me on the condition of this. There is indeed a Dark Sonata in the hands of the world's gangsters. Do you want this? No problem. I can give it to you. However, this thing is dangerous. Richard nodded. I know. Dark Sonata, I only have 1 copy. Then I can only help you kill 1 person. Harold thought for a moment. Kill the worms. Earthworm? Yes. Since you can only kill 1 out of 10, then I will choose earthworms. I have a personal grudge with this person. Sure, no problem. Richard said, but what you just said, Triple, take it when you see it. Richard can indeed take it as soon as he sees it. However, Harold was bound to be suspicious. Now that Harold has decided, Richard is a killer-like character. Then Richard will play the killer's identity well. Harold just gave up his mission and accepted Harold's entrustment with just a few words. This is not the style of a killer. Chapter 123, Colored Eggs. In addition, your commission does not conflict with the commission that the 10 old men gave me. Harold narrowed his eyes slightly. Richard, I believe in your strength, but this is Meteor Street, and I am not as easy to deal with as Singed. Richard looked at Harold lightly. So what? Richard looked around for a week and said, I don't think these people can protect you. Let me give up the 10 old man's commission and carry out your commission and kill Ean Beast before I can get the Dark Sonata. 5. Harold, if it were you, what would you choose? For the same reward, why should I seek distance? 55. Harold fell silent. After that, look up. You're right. I really can't let you go for nothing. 35. The 10 old men's commission is a dark sonata, but I only have one. I can't give you 3, but I can give you other things. What do you want? I have to see it before I can decide. Okay, come with me. Harold waved his hand, and the guards beside him dispersed. Richard came to the bright place. At this time, Richard finally knew why the Shadow's ability failed. Because of these, they are not human at all. These guards are corpses. The Walking Dead. The ability of Face Shadow is to use the memory of living people to create dolls. In the plot, Yuvigin, Pike Nortan, and Een Beast, the faces are all created using the memories of living people. After the doll is made, you can go and grab the eyes from the corpse. This will make the puppet stronger. In a sense, it can be regarded as a resurrection, because the memory of the doll is real. Harold walked in with Richard, all the way to a building. Crack! A guard opened the door. Here is my collection. You choose what you like. 5. Richard nodded and walked in. Harold was next to Richard. A lot of money, as well as various external luxuries and collectibles, are stacked here. But these things, Richard is not interested. Richard's eyes flickered. Sudden, a round ball caught Richard's attention. On the ball, Richard felt a different aura. Richard walked over. Harold's heart skipped a beat. Richard reached out and took the ball in his hand. What is this? Harold was silent for a while. Colored eggs. One of the 7 beauties in the world is the egg of a special magical beast. Under the sun, it will emit different colors. This thing is more valuable than the Dark Sonata. Richard looked at Harold. Are there no less colored eggs than dark sonatas in numbers? Yes, the number of colored eggs is more, but the dark sonatas are different. The dark sonatas are very dangerous and have no substantial effect. There are not many people who like to collect dark sonatas. Richard nodded. 3 times as promised. Then this colorful egg will be treated as 2 dark sonatas. If you give me the dark sonata in your hand, then I will leave the meteor street and help you kill the earthworms. How about it? It is good. A thought flashed through Harold's mind. Are you going to keep Richard? However, Harold was not sure. Harold's information channels are not only those of the world's gangsters. Richard not only killed Singed alone, but also all the people in Singed Manor. Moreover, Harold also knew that Hisoka was defeated by Richard. Hisoka's strength, according to Krallo's judgment, can be ranked at the forefront of the upper brigade. Harold, on the other hand, knew that his strength was not as good as that of Phantom Troop. This has been proven before. This is the Dark Sonata you want. Let me remind you again. Dark Sonatas are dangerous. If you die trying to Dark Sonatas, that's none of my business. You don't need to worry about that. Richard took the Dark Sonata. Open the city gate. Since the matter has been negotiated, I will leave your Meteor Street now. It is good. By the way, I want to take a child from your Meteor Street. No problem? What kid? I picked it up on the road. That's fine. Richard came out of the Elder Manor. Richard, 39 Pence looked over immediately. How's it going? Okay, stop harassing the Bonaparte estate. It is good. Huasher Dolong, go to the hotel and bring Betty out. Yes. 35 A car was sent to Richard. This was prepared by Harold. The 4 got into the car, and Huasher Dolong started. The gate of the Elder City opened a gap. The car came out of this gap. Soon, he disappeared from the sight of the Elder City. Harold looked gloomy in the direction Richard was leaving. Elder, 35, a middle-aged man, stood beside him. It was Bonaparte. Just let them go. It was the best option, and with our strength, we couldn't keep it. Harold said the brigade was not there, and if they were, they could have been dealt with Richard. 5, but we don't have to. Even if we kill Richard, it will definitely pay a huge price. The other elders will devour us like mad dogs. Face a color egg and a dark sonata can solve the problem. There is no need to pay too much. 5, also, he can help me kill earthworms. Let's write this down first. When our plan is completed, there will be time. 39 Bonaparte nodded. Yes, Elder. By the way, Elder, what should I do with this person? Bonaparte pointed to the old man beside him. There was a look of disgust in Harold's eyes. Kill it. Yes. Before the old man could react, he was already killed. The neck was twisted off. Blood flowed from the corners of the mouth. Eyes widened, fell to the ground. Several hounds rushed over to bite. Richard's idea and Harold's are similar. Harold was not killed, and there were indeed consequences. But kill Harold, too. Richard was not sure whether the other Meteor Street elders would support him. And Phantom Troop, will he shoot himself? The current results are good for Richard. Good Zhao. Richard already got it because of the Dark Sonata. In addition, also got a colored egg. Even if Harold was dissatisfied with Richard because of this incident, he wanted to take revenge in the future. But time was on Richard's side. The more time passes, the stronger Richard will become. At that time, let alone Harold, or even the entire Meteor Street, Richard didn't need to pay attention. All the way unimpeded, the huge city wall that isolated Meteor Street from the outside world appeared again in the sight of Richard and the others. Several gang members immediately greeted him. Mr. Richard. Richard nodded. Open the door. Yes. 55 these things have been ordered by the sick dog before. The previous young man heard the news and quickly came out to greet him. Mr. Richard, please come this way with me. This time, the youth took Richard to another building. The previous building was sealed. Why is this building blocked? Chapter 124 Resentment. What is it? A look of fear appeared on the young man's face. Mr. Richard, did you see something last time? The young man said, because of your reminder last time, when I went back, I went to the next building. That night, very strange things happened in this building. What's the matter? The people inside were all drowned. Richard frowned, recalling the footsteps he heard. What footsteps? Has no murder been found? 39. No. During the day, we went into the investigation, but we found nothing, no clues or traces. At this time, someone suggested that we wait until night to see if there will be any changes. Because those people died suddenly at night. But the next day, that didn't come out. All of them, like those before them, were drowned. Richard nodded. Indeed, Zero Sankey is very strange. The last time I reminded you, it was because I heard footsteps outside in the middle of the night, and even water seeped in through the crack of the door. But when I opened the door, there was nothing. The young man frowned. Footsteps. Yes, what footsteps? Like a person who has just fallen into the water and is back on the ground. Richard glanced at the building in front of him. I don't know what it is, but I suggest that you don't let people investigate and wait for professional people to come. 99. Richard wasn't meddling. Richard couldn't be sure of what was in this building, not the idea of death. When it comes to death thoughts, Richard uses circles, which can be detected. But at that time, Richard used circles, but he didn't perceive anything. Enter the next building. Mr. Richard, this is the room for you. Thanks. Richard lay on the bed and glanced at the building next to him. Despair, despair. Crack. 35. The strange footsteps sounded again. Richard's expression turned serious, because Richard found that the footsteps were not coming from the building next to him, but from his own building. Richard came out of the room and came to the living room. The footsteps became clearer, just outside the door in the hallway. Sudden, the footsteps stopped. A splash of water seeped into the crack of the door. Round. Richard used the circle again, but like last time, nothing was perceived. Despair, despair, despair. The other party left. Richard opened the door, and there was nothing outside. The next day, Richard found the youth. This building can't stay here either. 99. Why? The young man asked subconsciously, and suddenly, thinking of something, his pupils shrank. Mr. Richard, have you heard here too? That's right. 35. Richard nodded and said, this thing looks like it will spread. The building next to it has been completely occupied by that thing. And now that thing wants to occupy this building. Last night, the other party's hand was already stretched out. If there is no accident, the other party will do it tonight. 35. The young man's face became very ugly. Richard's expression was equally unpleasant. Before Richard thought that it was just a matter of that building, then Richard didn't want to pay attention to it because it had nothing to do with Richard, but this thing would spread and contagious, and that would be different. According to Richard's guess, the more places the opponent occupies, the more people they kill, and the stronger the power will become. That's not just a matter of the world's gangsters. It is a matter of all mankind. I'll make a call. Richard called Jorn. Senior. 99, Richard, what's the matter? Pion's voice was a little lazy, and it was obvious that he had just woken up, not fully awake. I encountered a very strange thing. Richard told Jorn the ins and outs of the incident. Senior, have you encountered such a thing before? Does the Hunter Association have a record? 9, wait, I'll check. It was only in the afternoon that Jorn returned the phone. This kind of thing has only happened 3 times in human history. What is it? It's resentment. Richard frowned, and the word of resentment made Richard ring out the mortal enemy of Netero, Jed. When Jed was defeated by Netero, he said that he would turn his death into resentment and pursue endless pursuit of Netero until he killed Netero. However, the resentment that Jade said is likely to be the idea of death. But Richard could guarantee that what he encountered this time was not the idea of death. Senior, is the resentment you're talking about the idea of death? No, Pion said. If the thought of death, it is actually very easy to solve. What you think can be solved with thought. There are not a few thoughts of death, and the Hunter Association has solved a lot. The grudge I'm talking about is something else. It has something to do with disaster creatures. The resentment of people after death is attached to the medium of disaster creatures, and after that, certain changes may occur and a new existence will be born. This is resentment. This is equivalent to a monster, more terrifying than the infected. 99, because resentment is hard to kill. 35, either you find the medium and destroy the medium. Either you need to find the rules of resentment and break the rules. Richard frowned. This thing is very similar to something Richard knew in his previous life. That thing named Weird, similar to Wraith, but higher than Wraith. Very difficult to deal with. Once targeted, there is no other outcome except death. For example, a rip woman. She will ask you if she is beautiful. And whether you answer, she's beautiful or not, she'll kill you. Even if you don't answer, it will still kill you. The solution is to give her an ambiguous answer and throw the other party into chaos. Pion continued. For what you just described, this resentment should only be aimed at the people in the building. As long as you leave that building, you will not be killed by resentment, and the danger is relatively low. 99, but as time goes by, this resentment will get bigger and bigger where it controls 5.0. More and more people will be killed. 35, and this resentment will become stronger and stronger. 9, it's going to be a big problem. Richard asked, Senior, how did you resolve your previous grievances? I don't know, but they all paid a great price, and the specific records are gone. 99, Jorn paused. This matter, Richard, don't rush to deal with it. I will report it to the Hunter Association. 35, good. 55, Jorn doesn't say that, and Richard doesn't act blindly. But Richard didn't leave either. Richard wanted to know what the Hunter Society and the world's gangs would do with this. The young man trotted over. Mr. Richard, I've already reported it. The World Gang will send the Een Beast to deal with it. Een Beast. Who? Sick dogs and blindfolds. Chapter 125, 12 branches. Yorkshire sick dog, Richard knows. But Richard had never heard of the blindfold. There are 10 members of the Een Beast in total. However, in the plot, only 5 names appeared. Earthworms, porcupines, sick dogs, leeches, and another leader, the owl. The remaining 5 were killed before their names even appeared. When Richard was watching the plot, he was expecting to see the battle between the brigade and the remaining Een Beasts. Unexpectedly, these Een Beast members were too unsatisfactory, so a few scenes appeared, easily defeated by the brigade. Richard didn't expect the Een Beast people to deal with this grudge. On the Hunter Association side, it is still possible. I wonder who will come from the Hunter Association. 35 just thought so. Sudden, Richard's cell phone rang. Hey, hello, is that Richard? 35, I am, are you? I'm one of the 12 members of the Yorkshire Hunter Society. Pinta, the image of a girl with long green hair entered Richard's mind. Wears round eyes and puppy ears. A Samsung hunter. After Netero's death, Pariston resigned from the Hunter Association and became the new president of the Hunter Association. After that, the strength of the Hunter Association dropped a lot. Kim Freaks and Pariston's 09 exits are a huge loss to the association. The added Leorio and Karapika, to be honest, are still much worse than Gold Freaks and Pariston, both in terms of strength and experience. Pion has already told me the matter, and I will be solely responsible for this matter. Can you describe the situation there in detail again? Can, Richard said again. And in addition, he talked about the fact that the world gangsters would send beasts over. But Yorkshire didn't care about the beast. I see, Richard, thanks. You're welcome. Richard hung up the phone. After that, turned to Youth. Before they come, let's clear all the people around here. Can you do this? Can. The young man showed a wry smile. If something like this happens, even if I don't let them leave, they will leave on their own. The youth has already told some people what Richard told him. Immediately, these people walked out of the building. Bring everything you can bring. Soon, this place became a vacuum. Human vacuum. With the first building as the center, the area of 100 meters nearby was completely emptied, and no humans were left behind. A security net was pulled up, blocking all exits and entrances. I'm going out. Richard came to a secluded place. Take out the dark Sonata and play it. This is not a recorder's tune, but it can be played, but it looks a little weird and not harmonious. But the power on the score was inspired, little by little, into the recorder. With Richard's playing, the dark Sonata gradually shattered, turned into powder, and disappeared. Richard felt a little dizzy in his head, so immediately went back to the room. Close your eyes. The scene in front of you immediately changed. Back to the original forest. A huge two-tailed snake was crawling on top of the big tree, and its heavy body almost bent the tree. It's you again. 35 Richard seemed to see similar emotions in the eyes of the other party. Next moment, the two-tailed snake opened its mouth wide and rushed towards Richard. However, at this time, behind Richard, a tentacle stretched out from the void. The two-tailed snake was suppressed. No, it should be said to be rolling. The tentacles entangled the two-tailed snake firmly, bit by bit, seeming to be swallowing. Chewing sounds. There was a low whine. After a long time, Richard opened his eyes again. I have completely absorbed the power of this dark Sonata. The spiritual pollution ability of the crazy Sonata is further strengthened. But not getting a new none, the rumors spread slowly. Some have given the grudge a name. Wet footsteps. Because before this grudge kills, there will be wet footsteps. When you hear wet footsteps, leave immediately, as far as possible. This was the only way to deal with Yorkshire and the beasts before they came. Even Richard. Now Richard has no clue about this. That medium is too hard to find, and the other party will definitely hide. In addition, Richard knew some things about rules, but he only knew the rules of avoiding danger, but he didn't know the rules of how to kill this grudge. The counterparty has no entity. Start killing at night. Suffocated to death. Richard didn't dare to take risks. Yorkshire did not arrive. First came the sick dog and the blindfold. Richard glanced at the members of the beasts whose names he had never heard of. Is middle-aged, wearing a black eye patch. No arms. The breath on the body is not strong. Richard felt that this blindfold, with a high probability, was similar to Sedeso. He had gone through newcomer initiation before he got none, and he took the wild road. Richard clicked his chin at the sick dog as a greeting. In the last incident at Singed Manor, the sick dog still kept his promise. Jenny got into Richard's card one after another. It has now reached 30 billion ren. The remaining 20 billion ringgits at the end of this month can be hit on your card. Richard nodded. Can. After a pause, Richard asked, what do you think about this thing? There are some. What? Trial. Richard raised his brows and knew what the sick dog was thinking. It's very simple. It is to use one life to judge the rules of this resentment and accumulate information bit by bit. Not very humane. But this is a world gang thing. Richard can't control it. 037 in the case of no way. This is indeed a good way. A gang member was sent into the building. No surprises. The next day, the man had turned into a corpse. In the book, there's nothing. In the evening, the sick dog sent another person in. A man with a bomb all over his body. As soon as you hear a sound, or if you feel something is wrong, just detonate it. People died, bombs didn't explode. It's not that Richard didn't think about letting Pinsy control the bees to have a look. But it's not just human beings who died in the building. All creatures, all dead. Richard couldn't be sure whether the power of that resentment would be transmitted to Peng Si through his thoughts. If Pensy died because of it, for Richard, the gain outweighed the loss. Richard has no reason to use puppets and death thoughts, either. Richard, I'm here. Okay, I'll be right over here. Richard drove to the nearby airship plaza. After that, take out a sign. It has Yorkshire's name written on it. A group of people come over to Richard. 3 people in total. Besides Yorkshire, there are 2 other youths. 1 male and 1 female. It appears to be a couple, arm in arm. Richard, how is the situation now? It's not optimistic. The attempts of the people of the Een Beast have failed, and the scope of that grudge is still expanding. Chapter 126 Escape Rules. Is the Een Beast willing to share the information? Willing. Then let's talk to them first, in the car. Yorkshire introduced the 2 people in the back seat. Here are my players, Johnson and Shelley. Hello. Richard glanced at Yorkshire in the co-pilot. It's almost the same as Richard's impression. A momentary, serious hunter. Richard sent Jorn a text. Senior Yorkshire has arrived. Jorn responded with a good word. Richard took the Yorkshire trio to find a sick dog and a blindfold. Huasher Dolong, Peng Si, and Betty were also present. The sick dog and the blindfold looked at Yorkshire, slightly apprehensive. After all, the Hunter Association and the world's gangs are equivalent to a light and a darkness. It's just that the 2 sides reached an agreement. The apparent balance is maintained. However, Een Beast and others are still afraid of the Hunter Association. In particular, the Hunter Association 12 is not the same as their Een Beasts. 12 are in the Hunter Association and have real power. And Een Beasts are more thugs hired by the world's gangsters. Sick dog, tell me your information. The sick dog nodded. We've tried sending all kinds of people in, all ages and genders, but without exception, they'll drown in the middle of the night. Is the body that died last night still there? 99 still. Take us there. 35, okay, come with me. The sick dog opened a room, and in the room, a row of corpses were displayed, all of which died in the hands of resentment. Shelley. Yorkshire glanced at the woman she had brought. Go and see. 55, Shelley nodded. Step forward and come to the corpse that died last night. After that, take out a sharp blade. A knife cut through the arm of the corpse. There was a little blood on the blade. Shelley dripped blood into his mouth. Richard guessed that this person's ability should be able to obtain the other's body information from the blood. Similar none. Richard remembers appearing in the plot. That was when the Island of Greed. Biscuit met a fugitive who cut off a strand of Biscuit's hair. The fugitive's ability was to know Biscuit's physical condition by tasting the hair. This ability is actually very useful. It's just that the fugitive used the wrong place. Had the fugitive chosen to be a doctor, he would have become quite a famous doctor. Compared to the money he robbed, it was much more. How about it? Shelley said, last night at 12 o'clock, I died on time. Dead in an instant. Yes. Richard frowned. Normal drowning cannot be an instant death. So this complaint is not simply using water to drown people, but using some other means to cause a phenomenon similar to drowning. It's like in an instant, it fills the entire lung. Yorkshire nodded. The killing method of this grudge is an instant death type, which means that as long as the conditions are met, it will be killed immediately. Even if the none are inside, it is no different from ordinary people. This ability is very troublesome. It's really troublesome. If it is not for the ability of instant death, it may be possible to rely on the none, support a little more time, and obtain more information. Apart from humans, the rest of the creatures are also dead. Yes. Then have you ever tried fish? Fish. That's right. Since this grudge kills the creature by drowning it, will fish, a creature that lives in water, be killed by the grudge's ability? The sick dog shook his head. I haven't tried it. Try it tonight. And in addition to fish, frogs, cats, dogs, chickens, creatures that live in water, creatures that can swim, and creatures that can't swim. 35. I'm going to prepare right away. Richard looked at Yorkshire, then at the sick dog. Comparing the two, Yorkshire is more professional than sick dogs. The sick dog is like an amateur who can no longer be a part-timer. These things, Richard has also thought about it. But after all, the leader of this matter is not Richard. Richard didn't want to do superfluous things. If the result is good, then of course everyone is happy. And if the result is not good, it is not good to say. The Hunter Association has experience in this area. Richard just needs to watch. For some reason, Richard had a hunch. This kind of resentment has only occurred 3 times in human history. But Richard had a hunch that he would meet again. Senior Yorkshire, how did you resolve the 3 previous grievances? 35. As a matter of fact, it was really resolved only once. Yorkshire sighed and said, twice it was unresolved. One is a ruin. That ruin sank into the sea and disappeared by itself. The second is a village. There is no way to solve it. The people at that time adopted a more direct method, using bombs to blow up the whole village. Maybe the medium was also blown up, and the grudge didn't reappear after that. Only the third one is really resolved. But the people who solved it at the time were President Netero, a member of the Zoldyck family, and Senior Linya, 35, at that time. The grudge they encountered was an old lady holding a cat, and the old lady would ask you if you would like to raise the cat in her hand for her. Whether you answer whether you want to or not, you will die. The correct answer is to meow and pretend to be a cat. This is the escape rule. 35. Afterwards, the president and the others found the medium of the resentment and destroyed the medium before killing the resentment. 95. Richard frowned. Richard has an impression of the name Linya. According to legend, when Netero was young, he went to the Dark Continent. At that time, Netero's teammates were Linya and a member of the Gudjau, Zoldyck family, Jig Zoldyck. The resentment that appears this time is not very destructive, so I'll take a look first. If there is really no way, the president will come over in person. Richard nodded. In other words, there's only one way to find the escape rules when facing grievances, and then find a medium. That's right. 99, but it's hard. At present, no creature has survived in the face of that grudge. None, and ordinary people, at this moment, there is no difference, because the resentment is too strong. Strong enough that everyone can only act according to his rules. Fortunately, resentment is a kind of rule. It will not have its own thinking and will only act according to the rules. So, as long as we find the escape rule and kill the resentment, it will be an easy thing. Yorkshire looked at the buildings across from him. Everything. Just wait for the results tomorrow. Chapter 127. Yorkshire's doubts, seeking tracking. The next day. Everyone's faces were ugly, because all the creatures inside are dead. Fish and frogs, which can live in water, also died, still drowning. If you don't have lungs, how can you drown? Everyone was puzzled, and all died at the same time. Shelley had checked the blood of those corpses, and they all died on time at 12 o'clock in the middle of the night. Yorkshire rubbed his head. It's really not that easy to solve this problem. Richard looked at the buildings. Nyan Beast, have you tried it? Yorkshire looked up at the sick dog. Not yet. I'm preparing to make arrangements tonight. Okay, then let's wait for the result. A nun, controlling his own mind beast, entered a building. Afterwards, the nun was left alone in a monitored room. The person in the other room, through surveillance, looked at this person. There are 3 layers in total. Read the beast, the master of the beast, the watcher of the master of the beast. No one knows how this grudge's killing rules will be contagious. 12 midnight. An exclamation sounded. Dead, dead. The watcher shouted. All 037 people were shocked, but they did not pass, but were waiting. See if this watcher will die together. Until daytime. The crowd opened the door. The watcher is still alive. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. How is the situation? At 12 o'clock, the man twitched suddenly, but there was nothing beside him, and I watched him die. What about you? Do you feel something is wrong? No. Yorkshire pondered for a while, and then came to, it seems that the mind beast will infect the rules of death, but the monitoring will not. 99. But the surveillance cameras in the building are broken, said the sick dog. Is it because of that grudge? Yes. 35. I originally planned to use a remote control car with cameras to enter those buildings to find a medium, but now it seems that this is not possible. Seeing the result, Richard felt a trace of fear in his heart. Also, I didn't let the clarinet and the thought of death in the picture scroll in Pincy's bees to go. Otherwise, both myself and Pincy might die in the death rules of this grudge. It is absolutely impossible to read beasts. From this situation, The other party's suppression of the electronic signal will be slightly lighter. That's the way to start. Richard looked Ajfa to the sick dog. Checked. What did those monitors fail for? It's water. The line is flooded. Is the seepage from the outside or directly inside? This did not pay attention. 35, Richard said. If it's from the outside, then maybe a better waterproof remote control car and camera can be done to not be damaged by this complaint. 5. Get more information. The sick dog hurriedly sent people to check. Soon, it came in from the outside. In that case, you can try it. Into the night, the third attempt, start again. A gang member entered the building. Stay in a room next to a remote control car. The door is open. Corridor can be seen. Despair. Free click, despair. There was a sound of footsteps. Everyone looked at the surveillance screen. Richard, is this the voice you heard? That's right. There were footsteps, but there was nothing outside the door. But at this time, a water stain appeared at the door. 12 o'clock, it's here. Sudden, the gang member lying on the bed twitched violently, as if experiencing something extremely painful. Boom! Lifeline broken. The gang member stopped twitching and his eyes widened. Beside, there is nothing. Did you see clearly? Richard hesitated. I seem to see something. 55, what is it? Yorkshire's eyes lit up, and she seemed to see something, but she wasn't sure. The mouth and nose of the gang member just now seemed to be blocked by something. I saw that in his open mouth. The water seemed to be overflowing, but something was blocking it. In this way, this thing has a substance, but we can't see it. The monitor screen disappeared. However, the information Yorkshire and Richard wanted to get had already been obtained. Fourth attempt. This time, the person who entered was still alone. However, the man was covered in a very sticky paint. In addition to color, there is also smell. Not soluble in water. This is the key of the key. Not surprisingly, people died. 12 midnight. If this thing can't come out during the day, we can enter this building and find out the body of the grudge. A group of people enter. 3. Yorkshire, Richard, and sick dogs. The more people, the better. Soon, the 3 came to the room where the gang member died yesterday. The body was still lying on the bed. The sick dog sniffed at the door. No sign of leaving. The sick dog frowned and said, "Last night, we clearly saw that this person's limbs were held down, his mouth and nose were covered, and that thing must have been contaminated with that resentful body. However, in the corridor, there is no smell of paint." 99, Richard glanced at the sick dog. In the plot, what the sick dog showed, only the teeth were strengthened. But now it seems that is not the case. The sick dog has an enhanced sense of smell. In other words, the ability developed by this sick dog is also half an assistant. No wonder it fell to Euvigen. The ability of earthworms is also used to sneak in and obtain information. The ability of the leech is more suitable for torture. The sick dog strengthens the sense of smell and teeth, half assistant, half warrior. As for the porcupine, it may be regarded as a real fighting faction. But too much, I was yelled to death by Euvigen. The 4 of them are not strong, and they're not pure fighting factions, and they underestimate Euvigen. It's normal to lose. Let's look at the situation in the room first. Richard turned on the light in his hand. Purple light. The color of this paint can only be revealed when it is illuminated with a violet light. Bed on the floor. All. The window has not been opened. There is no trace of the hallway either. 35, the sick dog frowned. Since this resentment has an entity, how did he disappear? Richard looked at the paint on the floor. They're on both sides of the bed. This doesn't seem normal. The other party has no reason to go on both sides. The one on the bed was easy to explain, and the gang member got it on himself when he was struggling. Senior Yorkshire, do you have any ideas? Yorkshire shook his head. It's weird, these traces of paint so abnormal. 35, exactly 4. 2 on one side. Size, width, all similar. Not like it was left unquestionably, but more like deliberately. But not right. The president said that resentment does not have its own thoughts, and resentment will only act according to the rules. Richard stared at the floor, his eyes narrowed slightly. Sudden, look up at the top of your head. A guess appeared in Richard's heart. Chapter 128 is not necessarily a person the purple light shone in the past. A pattern to stay on the ceiling. It's in the shape of a nose. I guessed right. Richard looked at Yorkshire and the sick dog and said, before we fell into a misunderstanding. This resentment has an entity, but his entity is not necessarily a humanoid. After all, he is resentment, not human. Grief is just a rule. 35. Why resentment? Can it be the house itself? The footsteps are fake. The real murderer, from start to finish, is the house itself. At night, when killing people, the walls, ceiling, and ground of this house will extend out, transparent, invisible tentacles. These tentacles hold down this person. The tentacles stretched out from the floor, holding down this person's limbs. The tentacles stretched out from the ceiling, covering the man's mouth and nose. That's why these paints look like this. The other party, you don't need to go out at all. At the same time, this can also explain why so many creatures die at the same time. The sick dog's pupils shrank. Yorkshire looked thoughtful. I didn't expect it to be like this. Indeed, we fell into a misunderstanding. However, the problem is still very big now. We know that the house is resentment, but we still can't find a medium. The house is too big. Finding a medium is no doubt looking for a needle in a haystack. Richard looked out the window. But we should and can stop this resentment from spreading. Since houses are entities, we can isolate these houses. The existence of an entity means the spread of this resentment in the form of an entity. No, the day before yesterday, why did my subordinate who controlled Nien Beast died? The sick dog frowned. It may be this resentment, which can be used to feedback damage through recitation. After all, reciting beasts are themselves part of the nun. But whether it is or not, we should try to separate the entity of resentment from other houses so that we can judge whether our current guess is correct. A project starts. The people around were driven away again. Nobody has an opinion. For gangsters, these ordinary people can't afford to offend them. Moreover, they have also heard about the resentment. Nobody wants to die. The ground was excavated. A deep trench appeared. An island-like existence is formed in the middle. Water pipes, sewers, electrical wiring, all have been removed. 6 houses were identified as having problems and stayed on the island. Into the night, Richard came to the adjacent roof. The entire trench was doused with gasoline. Ignite. The flames burst into flames. The body of this resentment is the house. Now this grudge is equivalent to a tree. These houses are the trunks of trees, and the diffusion is relying on the roots to extend to other houses, transforming other houses into a part of one's own body. This grudge likes to use water. With such a high probability, you don't like fire. This is the main reason Richard uses gasoline to ignite. One is to look at this. Can you capture the traces of resentment's actions? One is to want to be able to stop. I'll blow up this place now. Can it be solved? Asked the sick dog. This incident has caused the sick dog to be in a daze, and so many people died, and the problem has not yet been resolved. Uncertain, Richard shook his head and said, if the medium isn't destroyed, then the grudge will come back. 99. At that time, the place was in ruins, and it was more difficult to find the medium. Sudden, a fire went out in one place. However, the gasoline below is still there. The flame was not extinguished, but suppressed. Richard pulled out a pistol. Boom! Shoot where the flames are suppressed. Ding! A sound of metal collision sounded. Don't go in the air. Don't go underground. Go directly to the ground. 35 shoot with Richard. The sick dog next to him gave an order. Immediately, numerous gunshots rang out. Richard seemed to hear it, a whimper. This grudge's defense is not as strong as Richard imagined. Even guns can damage it. The medium has been found. Yorkshire came this way, so fast. I found it using Johnson's ability. Yorkshire looked in the direction of the houses and said, fortunately, this grudge hasn't grown to a strong level. If it becomes a town, even a village, it won't be like this. Easy. Compared to the grudge that the president met before, this one is probably just a minor. Really? Richard nodded. At present, this grievance has shown a total of 2 abilities. One forces the target into a drowning state. The other is deformation, extending something like tentacles to bind the opponent. Under the superposition of these 2 abilities, even those with powerful abilities cannot resist. But compared to the enforcing rule-type resentment, this complaint is much weaker. Before Richard and others were afraid, it was more because of the unknown. The capacity for this grudge is unknown. I thought this complaint was a mandatory rule-type complaint. Once you meet the rules, you will be killed. Now that we have this information, even sick dogs and others have a way to solve this grievance. The big deal is to demolish these houses bit by bit. A medium can definitely be found. Slow is a bit slower, but it does work. But with the passage of time, this complaint will sooner or later become a mandatory rule type. And now Yorkshire, with the help of Johnson's nun, has found the medium. The next day, Richard, Yorkshire, sick dog, Johnson, the four entered the lone island right here. 99 Johnson stopped in front of a public phone booth. Under here. How deep? 35, about 20 meters. 35 when Richard thought about it. A picture of greed appeared in his hand. I'll come. 39 immediately. Richard controlled the scroll and drilled into the ground, as well as fast speed extending downwards. Not just this public phone booth, but with the public phone booth as the center, the surrounding area of 10 meters is all wrapped around it. Richard didn't want this medium to have any accidents. Okay, everyone back up a bit. The four backed away. Just see. The soil under the public telephone booth rose slowly from the ground. The surrounding soil was tightly wrapped by Richard's picture. A huge clod appeared in everyone's sight. Open. A gap appeared. The things wrapped in the picture scroll kept spilling out. Most are dirt. A small part is garbage buried in the ground. Finally, a different thing appeared in the sight of the four. This is a wood carving of a building. The carving is not very fine, but it is very charming. Even after watching it for a long time, it will make people intoxicated. No doubt, this must be the medium of this resentment. Lilong from Catastrophe Creatures. Senior Yorkshire, how should this be handled in general? Destroy. Understood. Richard reached out and probed for the wooden sculpture and Chapter 129, Fortified Picture Scroll, Bell Tower. Richard is afraid of resentment. That kind of rule, more elusive than none. But now, the rules of this grievance have been figured out. This grievance has not yet become a complete state, and the rules are incomplete. And now it's daytime. That grudge cannot move. It's just a medium. Richard has encountered a lot of media. 2 dark sonatas, a crystal ball. Richard didn't think that this wood carving would be more special than those 3 things. A force along Richard's arm extended up. Crack. A gap appeared on the wood carving. After that, slowly crush. Sick dog in Yorkshire. Both breathed a sigh of relief. Tonight, observe for another day. If nothing happens, it will prove that this complaint is really resolved. Into the night. Richard went back to the room, eyes closed. After a while, the scene in front of Richard began to change. 037 is a wasteland. In the center of the wasteland is a clock tower. The exterior is a building, but it gives people a sense of life. Sudden, a pair of eyes appeared on the wall of the clock tower, looking at Richard, not a little angry. Next moment, boom, the ground rolled, as if something terrifying from the ground hit Richard. A tentacle appeared behind Richard. Lift up high. After that, it slammed down suddenly. Boom! The entire clock tower collapsed. The scene in front of Richard gradually disappeared. The next day, Richard opened his eyes. A thought moves. Picture agreed. 55, a picture scroll appeared in Richard's hands. Above, a pattern appeared. A clock tower. This clock tower is not just the content of the painting, but the real existence. It is equivalent to opening a space in the picture scroll. Even myself can enter this clock tower. Richard hung the picture on the wall. After that, I walked in one step. Next moment, Richard came to the clock tower. Outside, it was white. The clock tower has 3 floors and is empty. Richard browsed it once, then walked out of the clock tower and returned to the real world. The ability of the picture scroll of greed has been greatly enhanced. This clock tower is real. Then, there are more operable ways. It can be used as a storage space. You can hide people inside. The enemy can be locked here. 99, there was a knock on the door. The picture scroll in Richard's hand disappeared. Richard, are you up? Woke up. Richard opened the door. Outside the door is Pence. Breakfast is ready. Okay, I'll take a shower. I'll be right here. Go downstairs. The restaurant is prepared by gangsters. There are 3 tables in total. Richard, Peng Si, Huasher Dolong, Betty a table. Yorkshire, and Johnson Shelley 1. The rest are sick dogs and blindfolds, and a few gang members. Sick dog, how was it last night? Those who go to trial and error are still gangsters. They all came back alive. A rare smile appeared on the sick dog's face. This thing is too difficult. That's good. Richard looked over to Yorkshire again. Senior Yorkshire, when are you going to leave? Let's go after breakfast. Then let's go to the airship plaza together. It is good. Richard wanted to ask Yorkshire something. Something about the medium. The 2 cars left the gangster territory and headed for the airship square. The sick dog and the blindfold stood on the roof, watching the disappearance of the 2 cars. We're really a long way off. The sick dog sighed a little. Previously, the sick dog felt that he and other beasts were among the none in this world, and they were already considered to be the strongest among the strong. But this time, the sick dog realized that he was not as strong as he thought. Richard stopped talking. In the last incident of Singed, the sick dog had already seen it. The situation of Singed Manor made the sick dog very afraid. Even if it joins forces with the porcupine, the sick dog does not feel that it is certain to win. And this time, for Richard's team, Betty and Pence, the sick dog judged, and their chances of winning are very high. But Huasher Dolong gave the sick dog a feeling of palpitations. This feeling is indescribable and inexplicable. Plus, 2 guys from Yorkshire. Johnson, the sick dog feels that he may be on par with Johnson. Shelley, on the other hand, is a nun who prefers the auxiliary type. This sick dog was not compared. What makes the sick dog more afraid is Yorkshire. Nothing shows up, nothing nun is used. However, the sick dog felt a terrifying aura from Yorkshire's body. Invincible. Richard, Huasher Dolong, Yorkshire, Johnson. 35, these people are not under me. Beast, is it really a Topnin? Are there really those people in the gang who are as strong as they boast? The sick dog has deep doubts about his own strength. The same goes for the blindfold next to it. In this incident, the sick dog also showed a little strength. As for the blindfold, he watched almost the entire process and did nothing. It's not that you don't want to do it, it's that you can't. Senior Yorkshire, I want to ask you a question. What is the problem? Why destroy the medium of calamity creatures instead of stealing the power above? Find someone and be the thief. Yorkshire glanced at Richard and shook his head. It's not that the Hunter Association has not tried such a thing, but the possibility of failure is too high. Most of them have become infected, especially ordinary people, and there is no possibility of success at all. 39. And the nun. The nun themselves are so rare that it's not worth the effort. 1 out of 10 wins and 9 in losers. Killing 9 infected will cost a lot. In addition, this is still the medium of resentment, and the medium of ordinary disaster creatures is a completely different concept. Yorkshire paused. I didn't expect, Richard. Your ability could directly destroy that medium. 99, Richard smiled. I've done something similar with Dark Sonata before. Yorkshire nodded suddenly. It turns out that the Dark Sonata 5.0 is indeed a medium. However, the Dark Sonata itself is not very threatening. It needs to be used by someone before there will be casualties, and there will be no infections. Yorkshire knew about Dark Sonatas, not Richard's surprise. After all, the Hunter Association has so much information in the media, and it is not clear that the Dark Sonata is so widely circulated, and it must have conducted relevant investigations. Airship Plaza, here we come. Richard, our airship has arrived, so let's leave first. Bye. Goodbye, Senior. The Yorkshire trio left in an airship. The airship tickets purchased by the 4 Richards will take another hour. The 4 enter a coffee shop next to the square. A few bees staying in different locations of the shop. Richard hesitated and sent Kurapika a text message. Dark Sonata, I've got it, and soon we will return to you, Curson. Chapter 130. Kurapika's entrustment receive. A look of anticipation appeared in Kurapika's eyes. News from Richard, Kurapika would love to know. Hello, this is your coffee. 55. A waiter serves 4 cups of coffee. Richard took a sip. Slightly bitter. The sun outside shines in. Betty, how are you feeling now? Pretty good. Betty hesitated for a moment and said, It's much better than before, not so weak. 35 after joining Richard's team, despite being on the go, Betty's life has been much better than when she was at the gathering place. At least the food can be guaranteed, and there is no need to starve. That's good. Richard nodded. About the issue that you can't use your divination ability now. After the first two events, you must have known the thing called none. After learning none, your divination ability should be able to be taken back. Richard turned to Pence. Pence, Betty's training, I will trouble you. It is good. Learning none is not only for our team, but also for yourself, Betty. I believe you understand this truth and have the ability to divination. Even if you don't stay in my team in 09 in the future, you will still have your own value. You can live well in this world. 35, Betty got nervous. Big brother, are you going to drive me away? No, I just said there's a possibility. Maybe you don't want to stay in my team in the future, don't you? Will not. Betty shook her head quickly. I will never leave. Okay, don't leave. Richard smiled and said, It's almost time. The airship should have arrived. Let's go out. The four walked out of the coffee shop and boarded the airship. A few lines of sight were withdrawn. Richard glanced inadvertently and retracted. These monitors must be from the world's gangsters, but Richard can understand. His own strength makes the world's gangs very jealous. If they don't watch themselves leave, they will definitely not be relieved. For seats in a row, Washer DeLong was by the window, Richard was by the aisle, and on the other side of the aisle were Pence and Betty. As the airship took off, the passenger room was quiet. Richard closed his eyes. This journey was much calmer than Richard had expected. Before Richard took the airship, the probability of encountering things was not small. This has been the case since the Hunter exam, and this time, there were no other surprises except for a few children who were quite noisy. Richard was a little disappointed. At noon, the airship dropped. The four of Richard returned to Ukexon. I went to the hotel last time. This time I booked a 3-bedroom suite. Richard's room, Washer DeLong's room, and Pence and Betty's room. I've arrived at Ukexon. Okay, I'll be out right away. 99, Kurapika replied. Washer DeLong, go out with me. Peng Si. Now you can start teaching Betty, starting with physical training. Good. 35, Peng Si wanted to exchange with Hua Sherdolong. But Peng Si knew that her fighting strength was not as good as Hua Sherdolong. Sister Peng Si, where do I start? Betty looked at Pensy. Start with a jog. Peng Si took Betty to the hotel gym. Let's start with the treadmill. It is good. Richard and Hua Sherdolong came to a restaurant. Kurapika and Melody are already waiting in the restaurant. Melody couldn't help standing up the first time she saw Richard. Richard, Dark Sonata, did you really get it? I got it. It's been destroyed. Great. Melody breathed a sigh of relief and said, It's really great to be able to destroy the Dark Sonata so that no one will be hurt like me and my friends again. Unfortunately, I don't know where the remaining two are. I'm also inquiring. If you have news about Melody, please let me know as soon as possible. It is good. Richard sat down and looked at Kurapika, who had been waiting for a long time. Okay, Kurapika, if you have any questions, just ask. I know I can tell you. 99, Richard, you said last time that the Cave Skull Tower family are probably thieves? That's right. The thief, is there any way to judge? No. Richard shook his head and said, The thief gains power from the medium of the disaster creature, which is equivalent to becoming his own ability, which is no different from none. 5, Richard looked at the Melody. If I guess correctly, Melody, you should have acquired some special abilities from the Dark Sonata? 35, yes. Melody hesitated for a moment, then nodded in recognition. The Dark Sonata ruined me and made me who I am, but I did gain some abilities. 35, Richard said. It's not very difficult to know if the Cave Skull Pagoda is a thief, because the ability of a thief cannot be inherited and can only be obtained from the medium. A very simple way. Karaika, you put everything in your family aside first. Family rituals, traditions, all aside, and then give birth to a child to see if this child can inherit flaming eyes. 35. If it can't be inherited, it proves that the power of flaming eyes is obtained from the medium. If not, it is inherited from your bloodline. Kurapika blushed. Birth? It's the easiest way to test the oath. I see. Kurapika held on, but her entire face, including her ears, was already read. Then there is a high chance that Phantom Troop killed 037 of my clan because he wanted to obtain the medium controlled by our Cthulhu clan. It's very likely, Richard said. From what I've heard, the Phantom Troops sold all the red eyes, and if they really liked the red eyes, at least one pair would be kept. 55. Moreover, the price of flaming eyes. Now that you have become a hunter, you also know that the price is not too expensive. Isn't it more cost-effective than fighting with your Cthulhu people and robbing a rich man? In addition, 34 pairs of fiery red eyes flowed into the market at the same time, and one pair of fiery red eyes flowed into the market. Do you think that one can sell for a higher price? The price of collectibles is closely related to the quantity. The more quantity, the cheaper the price. 34 pairs of fiery red eyes are really not necessarily more expensive than a pair of fiery red eyes. Because a pair, that may be the only pair in the world. All who are interested will push the price up. Kurapika's pupils narrowed slightly. What Richard said, Kurapika understood. That is to say, the people of the Luda clan in the genocide, not just the Phantom Troop. I can't say for sure, but the odds are high. Is there anything else to ask? 99 Kurapika was silent for a while. Richard, do me a favor. 35. After that, I will take you to the old land of the Cthulhu clan, and I can show you everything. How about it? Chapter 131. Peng sees private matters. What are you busy with? I want to deal with Phantom Troop. This auction, I have got the information. They will appear. I hope you can help me contain 2 people. 2. Yes. 95 Kurapika nodded and said, it can only be 2. After all, Pincey's ability is not a combat type. Richard pondered. The old site of the Cthulhu tribe. Richard is sure to go. Now that you have embarked on this route, the medium, the cult, the infected, the monster, the grudge. These are the things Richard has to investigate. Richard didn't know why the huge creature in the deep sea helped him. But no matter what the situation is, it is a good thing that one's own strength becomes stronger. Richard looked towards Kurapika. Helping Kurapika means being on the opposite side of the Phantom Troop. Richard and Maggie have some friendship, but it's just friendship. Richard and the rest of the brigade, without any communication, were at Shalnark just enough to buy a piece of information. As for Hisoka, it is a fake member. It's not impossible to be on the opposite side of Phantom Troop. Phantom Troop can be regarded as B-level. There are only 2, one Krallo, one Phaeton. The rest are only C-level, Uvigen, and only C+. And with my current strength, Krallo, Phaeton, together would not be my opponent. My Hrada is but my abilities are special, whether it's a picture of greed or a sonata of madness. These 2 mental pollution abilities are absolute killers for ordinary people. Moreover, after absorbing 2 copies of the Dark Sonata, the mental pollution ability of the Crazy Sonata has been greatly enhanced. The picture scroll of greed, the ability of spiritual pollution, is not as good as the Crazy Sonata. However, the picture scroll of greed has its own advantages. The existence of dozens of thoughts of death makes the picture scroll labyrinth equivalent to a forbidden area. Moreover, the bell tower in the painting can trap people in the painting. Richard can do exactly that. Induce the opponent to enter the clock tower. After that, Richard let the picture of greed disappear, but never let the picture of greed appear. In this way, the other party will be trapped in the clock tower forever and cannot leave, abruptly, starved to death. There is also the eye of angry. The more angry the other party is, the more black thought lines will grow on his body. Without Kurapika, Richard can also find the old site of the Karuta tribe. But with Kurapika, Richard can definitely get more useful information more easily. When you make a deal, call me in advance when you need me to take action. 39. It is good. After returning to the hotel, Richard took out a piece of paper. Several names are written on it. They are Krallo, Hisoka, Kurapika. The so-called Ukexan incident is actually the competition of people from these 3 forces. Karaika just want to get flaming eyes, collect the eyes of the clan, and also take revenge. However, Kurapika's way of revenge is not simply to kill the members of the Phantom Troop. What Kurapika wants to do is to make the organization of Phantom Troop disappear. That's why Kurapika is listening to what Krallo said. The brigade will never be disbanded, As long as there is a spider there, it will come back to life, absorb new members, and shake things up. If you just want to kill the murderer, Kurapika kills the people in the brigade who attacked the Karuta tribe. From Richard's perspective, Kurapika is a bit too idealistic. If Richard was in Kurapika's position, Richard wouldn't think so much. Whether the brigade is disbanded or not, I don't care at all. Find the murderer and kill it. That is revenge. Hisoka's words to cooperate with Kurapika, just to find a chance to fight against Crawlo alone. That's what Hisoka pursues, to fight with people who are interested in him. Gon Killua Ilmimi Crawlo. From a normal person's point of view, Hisoka is a pure lunatic, a mess. In the plot, Crawlo and Hisoka had no idea of fighting, even though they knew that Hisoka had two hearts. But Crawlo felt that he could control the situation. But you curse in, Crawlo made a mistake. That's why Crawlo wanted to kill Hisoka. Because of the Ukexin incident, Paikinaton and Uvijin died. From Phantom Troop's perspective, Hisoka is more hateful than Kurapika. Kurapika is revenge. Hisoka, on the other hand, is betrayal. Next is Crawlo. In the Ukexin incident, Crawlo did a lot of things, planned the robbery, and commissioned the Zoldyck family to assassinate the 10 old men. 39. Killing the Een Beast can only be said to be an incidental matter. Richard paused. The purpose of Crawlo should be to fight against the world's gangsters, to win more rights for Meteor Street, and to tilt the balance in the direction of Meteor Street. 99. The one point I'm not sure about right now is that, does Crawlo know anything about the medium? Richard's eyes flickered. Not many people know the medium. In this world, there are very few Nin people, and there are even fewer Nin people who know the medium. Not even Hisoka. I know it because I know Jorn. Pion is one of the Hunter Association, one of the 12 branches, and the information that he can understand exceeds that of most of the Nun in this world, and he can also access the information of Netero. I said to Kurapika earlier that Phantom Troop doesn't want red eyes, but rather the medium of the Karuta tribe, which is very likely. Because it's really not worth it just for the red eye. Isn't it faster to rob an ordinary human rich man? 35. Either the person who hired Phantom Troop knew the medium. Either Crawlo knew the medium existed. Richard came out of the room. Crack. 99. The door outside opened, and Pence came in with Betty. Both were dripping with sweat. Betty, in particular, was so tired that she could barely speak. Richard, big brother. Richard nodded. Drink some water and rest. Pensy hesitated. Richard, what's wrong? I might be away for a while. Leave what? There's something wrong with my family. Good jow. I have to go back and solve it. 35. Do you need help? Need not. Really not. Pensy shook her head. I can handle it myself. Okay, then you pay attention to safety. Pungsi immediately returned to her room to buy airship tickets. Richard didn't ask any further questions. The next thing, without Pungsi, will definitely be a little more troublesome. After all, the information Pungsi provided was very timely and prepared. But Richard could see Pence's urgency. It's not a matter of leaving. Pungsi won't leave now. Richard didn't have to. He forced Pence to stay here. Because it is a plot, Richard can guess most of it even if it changes a little. That night, Pungsi left. Only Richard, Huasher Dolong, and Betty were left. Huasher Dolong is always in a state of cultivation, because Huasher Dolong knows that there will be a real battle soon, and the opponent is not weak. Chapter 132 gone, and Killua's money-making plan. Pence has collected some news about the Phantom Troop, plus Richard knows some too. Huasher Dolong's understanding of the brigade is more intuitive. That is Hisoka. Huasher Doru lost to Hisoka, completely crushed, and Hisoka is a member of Phantom Troop. Huasher Doru is preparing to treat the next opponent with the attitude of treating Hisoka. The current Huasher Dolong is not enough. With the passage of time, Ukexin has become more and more lively. Two figures came out of the airship square. This way, 35 Leorio beckoned. Gon and Killua trotted over. Leorio, you came so early. I arrived half a month ago. You guys are a lot later than agreed. 39 Gon scratched his head and said, because of some things, it took a little time. By the way, Leorio, did you help us inquire about that thing? Inquired. Leorio recalled the price, and couldn't help gasping for breath. I don't think it's very likely that you will shoot that thing. The previous transaction prices were all above 10 billion ringgits. According to the trend, the price this time may be more expensive. 10 billion ringtones. Yes, how much money do you two have now? Gon and Killua looked at each other. Less than 100 million ringni. The two had no money and made some money in the Sky Arena. That's impossible. I don't have much money in 053. It's not as good as you. Even if the hunter license can be mortgaged, it's still far from enough. You can't shoot that thing. 5, but I have to get that thing. There was a look of determination in Gon's eyes. Then let's make money. Killua patted Gon on the shoulder and said, there are still 2 weeks before the official auction. We can make as much money as possible within these 2 weeks. 5 Liurio complained. No matter what, it's impossible to earn 10 billion yuan in 2 weeks. Even if the 3 of us go to work, it won't work. How can it be such a good thing? Suddenly, Liurio sounded something. By the way, I also met Karapika and Richard in Ukexin. Richard seems to be very rich. I heard from Karapika that Richard has prepared tens of billions of ringgits for this auction. If you can borrow money from Richard, there may be a chance. Is Richard so rich? Gon was taken aback. Killua frowned and said, Richard was already a nun before he took the hunter exam. He must have accumulated a lot of money before, but he might not necessarily lend it to us. He prepared so much money. He must have something he wants to auction. It's red-eye. 99 Liurio said, I knew what Richard wanted to auction. He told me. Red-eye? Gon and Killua looked at each other. Their expressions became serious. They both thought of Karapika, the identity of the Karapika Cave Skull Tower clan. Both of them knew. Karika already knows they met. As for what they talked about, I don't know, but at least there was no conflict between them. Nine Gon and Killua breathed a sigh of relief. If Karapika and Richard became enemies, they would definitely be on Karapika's side. However, for Richard, the two are very afraid. Killua has clearly realized that he is far from Richard's opponent. And Gon, even if he wanted to challenge Richard, was aware of the gap between the two. Gon made a decision. Then let's make money first. If we can't make it, Liurio, give me Richard's contact information. I'll ask Richard to see if he can lend me this money. Okay. 39, the 3 entered the Ukexin market. Using condensation, you can indeed find some good things. A real artist, a great craftsman, often pours his spiritual power into it when making things, and then puts his thoughts on his works. These thoughts are very weak, but it can be proved that this is a work with real intentions. Once you find these works with thoughts, there's a high probability that they will be made by famous producers, and the value will be much higher than the price of ordinary works. However, the efficiency is too low. Richard disliked this approach. Most of the nun, all Ajfa, will have a better way to make money. An E-level nun, like Sedeso, can set up a Dasawa association to make money, fake matches, and act. D-rank in beasts can become the support of the world's gangsters. This world nun is really very little, so it's very valuable. Both Gon and Killua did not discover the true value of the nun. 1 week. How much have we earned in total? Liurio lay, panting on the sofa, motionless. Compared to Gon and Killua, who have learned to read, Liurio's physical fitness is much worse. It's been really hard these days. 34.6 million rennies. Not bad. You can make so much money in a week. For ordinary people, it's really good. Liurio had never even seen so much money before. Killua looked at Gon, but it's still a long way, a lot from what Gon needs to photograph. Moreover, we have almost wiped out everything on the market. In the next week, no matter how hard we try, it will not exceed this week, which means that we can only get less than 200 million ringni to participate in the auction, which is impossible. 39 Gon nodded. It's time for us to switch businesses. 35, but what instead? Killua looked at Gon. Sudden, an idea popped up. So what do you think? Killua spoke his mind. Simply put, it's a lie. Using Gon, go for arm wrestling. Control the winning rate and attract people to keep coming. Once, 10,000 ringni. If you win, you can get a prize of 300,000 ringni. Similar to the principle of a fruit machine. I think it works. Liurio nodded. Gon hesitated. Would it be not good? No. Only greedy people can be fooled. Don't you want to take pictures of that thing, Gon? I think. That's it. 99, the three came to the market again. A small stall was set up. Gon sat behind table. Leorio used signage to explain the rules clearly. Immediately, someone greeted him. Humans really don't have much resistance to this kind of gambling. Because greed, as long as it is a normal person, there will be. And the price is small. As long as you pay 10,000 ringni, you can get a prize of 300,000 ringni. Don't be too cheap. Plus the other party is just a child. I come. A middle-aged man sat opposite Gon. Little devil, I will be gentle, admit defeat obediently, and present the prize. 99 Gon kept his mouth shut and didn't speak. Beside him, Leorio waved his hand violently. Start. Chapter 133, the deal between Richard and Gon one after another fails. Leorio's eyes lit up with power. The money came so easily, even easier than last week. It's no wonder that Richard has so much money, strength, and so-called desire. Leorio loves money. Because since he was a child, Leorio, who saw his friend die with his own eyes, understood a truth. There's only one disease in this world. That is poverty. Without money, even a common minor illness that cannot be cured will become a serious illness or even death. And rich, even terminally ill, can't procrastinate. The reason why Leorio is greedy for money comes from this. Send it, we sent it this time. At the end of the day, the three returned to the hotel. Leorio looked at the cash, excited. One day we made more than 10 million ren. Killua glanced at the money on the couch and looked away. However, the distance of 10 billion ringnig is still an unattainable number. 55 and tomorrow. Leorio has become somewhat immersed in this money-making activity. Gon hesitated. Leorio, let's try again tomorrow. If it still doesn't work, then give me Richard's contact information. I want to ask if Richard can lend me money. Okay, 99 the next day. A special person appeared in front of Gon. A young girl with short black hair and eyes, a black tights on the upper body, ordinary pants on the lower body, a gold cross on the chest, and gold bracelets on both wrists. Not far away, two figures stood. Leorio was stunned when he saw Shizuku appear. Because this is already the second day, many people already know Gon's record, and if they are not confident in their own strength, it is impossible to challenge Gon. But this one is just a girl. Not Leorio SXST. But girls are indeed inferior to boys in terms of strength. Killua looked at Shizuku instinctively, feeling that something wasn't quite right. Start. The two held their hands together. After, Gon's expression became struggling. Shizuku's power is great. Even though Shizuku is left-handed, he uses his right hand. Even if Shizuku is positioned as a tool man among the Phantom Troop. However, Shizuku's overall strength is much stronger than the current Gon. The two stood still. The two figures not far away looked at Gon with a strange look in their eyes. Shizuku's strength, they are very clear. Gon, a child, can achieve this level, but it is not the level that children and ordinary people can achieve. Even their age can't do it. Boom! Gon let go. I won. Shizuku shook his head, with a hint of regret in his eyes, looked at the prize in Leorio's hand, and walked out of the crowd. Killua looked at Gon's hand. Just saw that Gon's hand has been pinched red. This is something that never happened yesterday. Gon, that man, is there a lot of power? Very strong. Killua's eyes flickered. This is the end of the day. Let's go back first. It is good. The appearance of Shizuku brought the three of them to an early termination of their business. Killua looked at Gon and said, that person today, like us, should be a nun, and he definitely took longer to study than us. The auction is getting closer and closer, and there may be more and more such people. This thing can't go on anymore. Leorio handed the phone to Gon. Gon, this is Richard's number. Whether or not you can convince Richard is up to you. What I say may have the opposite effect. Okay, thanks. Gon pressed the dial button on the phone. Richard connected. Hey, Richard, it's me, Gon. Richard frowned. Hello. Richard, it's like this because my father left me a Greed Island depositor card. The card contains very important information that my father left me, so I have to get the Greed Island client. But this client is too expensive, and Leorio estimates that it will be auctioned for more than 10 billion ringgits. I don't have that much money. Richard, can you lend me money? Gon made his request. This is something Richard really didn't expect. Richard didn't expect Gon to want to borrow money from himself. Is it because Leorio and Gon said I have so much money? I can't help but think of me. Richard shook his head. This is a butterfly effect because of itself. This money, Richard could take out, but not as much as 50 billion ringnees. Richard couldn't have lent all the money to Gon. Zero asked for flowers. Zero also, Richard has already used part of it. Richard was not idle during this time. The appearance of the clock tower in the picture made Richard realize that he can store a lot of resources in the clock tower. Food, water, car, gasoline, weight, in survival, in combat, things that may be used. So much money put in the card is just a number. Richard felt that he would inevitably encounter a situation where he was stuck somewhere. At that time, you can take out resources from the picture scroll, clock tower, and survive. It's like creating a small shelter for yourself. Richard has spent nearly 10 billion ringgits to prepare these things. How much do you need? Gon didn't hold out much hope. But Richard's words made Gon's eyes light up. 100, no, preferably 20 billion rin. 20 billion ringnee. Richard hesitated, then said, I can lend it to you, but give me a reason. I can't lend you 20 billion ringnee for no reason, right? 20 billion ringnee. Richard can completely take it out. Richard wants to buy red-eye, just a pretense. Richard, who has already got Kurapika's promise, doesn't need flaming eyes at all. Richard guessed that the Hunter Association and the Zoldyck family, on Gon and Killua, must have made preparations to have a relationship with the Dark Continent. Therefore, Richard sells the face of Gon. In other words, sell the face of those behind Gon. What would you like? Now you don't have anything, it's what I need. Let's do it. I'll lend you 20 billion yuan, and within 3 years you can return it to me. The principal will be fine. No interest is required. And as a condition, you need to do one thing for me. Gon agreed immediately. I promise. What are you busy with? I haven't figured it out yet. I'll let you know when I need it. Okay, I promise. 35, make a deal. Hang up the phone. Killua looked at Gon, not understanding. Gon, you just agreed without asking clearly? If Richard asked you to go to his death, would you go to? 39, yes, since I promised, I will do it. Gon saw the angry Killua and said with a smile, but Richard will definitely not make such a request. He wants me to die, so he doesn't need such trouble at all. The game client, I must get it. And Chapter 134 Fight with Hua Sherdolong with 20 billion yuan. It is not an easy task to take pictures of the game client of the Island of Greed. Richard remembered that in the plot, all the game clients in this auction were above 20 billion yuan because a rich man named Butra wanted to get a certain card in the Island of Greed. Use the power of that card to save his lover. In terms of wealth, this rich man is already the top existence in the human world. Not many people will be richer than him. But for none, the lure of money is limited. Island of Greed, made by the team at Kim Freaks. This card, Archangel's Breath, was also made by the team of Gene Freaks. Essentially, it's none, compared with the breath of the Archangel. Directly hiring this person in the Gene Freaks team will have a greater chance of curing his lover. Butra, not 053, doesn't want to do this. Rather than being able to do so, the strongest nun that Butra could come into contact with was Juijuela. There are not many nun who are really interested in money in the game of Greed Island. The upper limit, in fact, is Juizju La, an explosion demon. Did not reach the C rank of ordinary members of the brigade. Maybe it's just the same as the Een Beast. These two are the real, normal player limit of the Island of Greed. Gon, Killua, got into this game because of Golden Freaks. Hisoka and the members of the brigade were simply out of curiosity or boredom and had no interest in clearing the game. They didn't like those cards very much. Otherwise, Phaeton and Finks, or Hisoka, can just grab the explosive demons card. Biscuit. Richard guessed, maybe not just for the so-called gem. Biscuit's credentials are very old, nearly 60 years old, older than some of the Hunter's 12. 2-star gem hunter. Although it's a bit odd that none was developed because of personal preference. However, Biscuit went the orthodox way of the heart. Compared to those wild ways, Biscuit's strength is still much stronger. Is a gem really so attractive? If my previous speculation is correct, The Hunter Association and the Zoldyck family have made a lot of preparations for Gon and Killua. Then Biscuit is probably also deliberately arranged by the Hunter Association. 99. What Yongu can teach is just some simple basic nin skills. The one who is really good at the high-level skills after that is still Biscuit. Even Ahsoka, praised, said Gon and Killua had met a good teacher. 99. In the evening, Richard and Huasher Dolong went out. Betty was left alone at the hotel. Richard and Gon made an appointment to meet at a restaurant. The three of Gon had arrived first, and when they saw Richard, they quickly waved their hands. Go ahead. In a private room, 5 people sat down separately. Let's order first. Good. 95. The menus circulated in the hands of the 5 people. After a while, start serving. While eating, Richard said, Gon, give me your card number, and when I go back, I'll call you 20 billion yen, and as for what I want you to do, when it's needed, I'll directly inform you. Point 39, is it okay? Gon nodded quickly. Yes. 39. Leorio glanced at Richard and couldn't help asking, Richard, you borrowed so much money to Gon. Don't you need that fiery red eye? Or is it because of something else? More or less, Richard said. Kuraika has already agreed to cooperate with me in the investigation, and I don't need it so much for the red eye. After all, the red eye soaked in formalin is not comparable to the real Karuta. Richard, what do you want to investigate about the Kaluta clan? Gon asked curiously. Do you remember the monster that appeared in the restaurant last time? Remember. Something like that. Richard said. You haven't touched these things yet, so I won't say more. It's useless to say more. You just need to know that Kurapika and I are not on opposite sides. It's a deal between me and Kurapika. Leorio hesitated. Richard, can you tell me what Kurapika is going to do? I always feel that Kurapika's purpose this time is more than just being the escort of that Yakuza family. Point 95. Unfortunately, no. What? Gon and Killua also looked over. The purpose of the two is to be the client of the Island of Greed. But Kurapika is their friend. They will not turn a blind eye to the friend's affairs. If they can help, they will try their best to zero. Because your strength is too weak, Kurapika does not want you to be involved in this matter. But we've learned none, Killua said, a little unconvinced. Richard smiled. If you learn none, will you be strong? But Kurapika, like me and Gon, learned it only after the Hunter exam. That's right. 95. Could Kurapika be much stronger than us? Meeting. At this point in time, Kurapika is indeed much stronger than Gon and Killua, even though Kurapika's Nun was developed for Phantom Troop, but he includes 2 aspects. Physically, Kurapika is not necessarily stronger than Gon and Killua. However, spiritually, Kurapika at this time is stronger than Gon and Killua. Think back to the night of the genocide all year round. Can't sleep at night. This is great for mental stimulation. This is impossible. Killua is confident in her talent. Before I didn't learn Nun, I was stronger than Kurapika. Nun was just a tool, and Kurapika had no reason to be stronger than me and Gon. Richard glanced at Killua and Gon, noticing their eyes. Looks like you guys are very confident. Well, I'll let you compete with Huasher Dolong. If you can beat Huasher Dolong, then I'll tell you about the Karapi 5.0 card. Good. 35 Gon and Killua met Huasher Doru. In the Sky Arena, Huasher Doru lost to Richard and also to Hisoka. However, both of them knew that Huasher Dolong, Jido, and Realvelt, such newcomer killers, were countless times stronger. However, Gon and Killua felt that they had improved a lot during this time. There may not be as big a gap as before with Huasher Dolong. After dinner, let's go to a training ground. Gon and Killua had no time to eat, and the group looked forward to the next competition. Defeat Huasher Doru and get Kurapika's information from Richard. Only Leorio, still eating silently. Of the 5 people present, only Leorio could not know none. But Leorio wasn't in a hurry. Leorio wants to be a healer, not just a nun. Chapter 135. Gon's Huasher Dolong. In this world, fighting prevails. Not only is there a training ground near the Sky Arena, Yukursin will also have it. Is the price a little more expensive? A separate indoor training ground. Richard made sure that no surveillance existed. After that, he looked at the 3 people in the middle. It's time to start. Stop here. 35. But it's up to me to judge whether to lose or not, rather than having to admit defeat. When Richard said this, he deliberately looked at Gon. In a Hunter exam final, Gon's choice, Richard couldn't understand. Saying this now is to completely cut off the possibility of Gon cheating. I see. Gon nodded, recalling what he did at the time, a rare embarrassment on his face. Killua, I'll come first. It is good. Killua stepped aside. There were only two people left in the middle. Gon, Huasher Dolang. Both of them were wrapped in ki. But the difference is that the nun skills of the Huasher Dolang Club are much more than that of Gon. Gon only learned to entangle, refine, absolutely, and condense. And Huasher Dolang, in addition to these four, will also send and Jian. The time to practice nun, Huasher Doru, is only 9 years longer than Gon and Killua. In this case, Gon cannot be the opponent of Hua Sherdolong. Fighting experience, the amount of gas, the skills of gas. Both are stronger than Gon. And Gon is stronger, probably only with that innate acumen. Intuition comparable to that of a beast. Killua and Leorio stared intently at the two of them. Richard has seen results. Gon couldn't have won without any major surprises. Bring it on. Huasher Dolong didn't shoot first, but gave Gon a chance. It is good. The next moment, Gon suddenly ran around Hua, Sher Dolong, and ran at an extremely fast speed, circle after circle. A trail of afterimages were left behind. Richard didn't pick one. Because I can't see the flaws of Huasher Dolong, so I take this method. Do you want to see more of Huasher Dolong? This idea is really good. But the gap between the two is too great. 99. This speed for ordinary people is already very good, but for Huasher Dolong, it is far from enough. Gon's figure, Huasher Dolong can see clearly. Sure enough, Gon's face darkened. Because Gon saw that. Even so, Huasher Dolong still did not reveal the slightest flaw. I can't continue, otherwise it will consume my own physical strength, and Huasher Dolong has no loss at all. Gon gritted his teeth. Sudden. Bang. 55, one step on the ground, a sudden kick. The next moment, Gon's figure rushed towards Hua Sherdolong at an extremely fast speed, like a cannonball that was out of the way. Hua Sherdolong raised his brows. For Gon, Kaisher Doru has an impression. In the Sky Arena, Gon's battle, Kaisher Doru watched it, because Gon's opponent is a person who Kaisher Doru cares about very much, Hisoka. Compared to that time, Gon is much stronger, and in such a short period of time, he can improve so much. I have to say, this guy's talent is really good. Huasher Dolong's eyes showed a touch of envy. Envy of Gon's talent. At this age, Huasher Dolong is far from being so strong. Even without counting none, the talent is truly extraordinary. But now yours, it's impossible to beat me now. 39. Hua Sherdolong condensed his ki on his fist. Bang! 35 punched up to him. Gon's fist failed, but Huasher Dolong's fist hit. A huge force acted on Gon. Even with the protection of the entanglement, Gon could still feel the threat posed by this enormous force. Involuntarily, Gon opened his mouth. A trace of blood spilled from the corner of Gon's mouth. Gon, are you alright? Killua and Leorio looked worried. I'm fine. Gon wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth and said, Huasher Dolong has already kept his hand. It was my mistake. Huasher Doru didn't do his best, and Gon saw it himself. Jin was not used, not even using full power. Because Richard said it. It's just a click and stop, not a life and death struggle. Do you want to continue? You should have realized that you're not my opponent. 35. Gon nodded. I know, but I want to continue. I can't beat you. At least, I have to force your full strength out. Gon's eyes showed a strong fighting spirit. Seeing Gon's current appearance, Huasher Dolong couldn't help but have a look of admiration in his eyes. This reminded Hua Sherdolong of his past. The same unyielding. Not admit defeat, not a disgusting trait, but need to maintain a degree. In the Hunter exam, Gon was unhappy because he didn't control this degree. And this time, Gon didn't go beyond that. Come on then. Gon rushed towards Hua Sherdoru again. The fight between the two is getting faster and faster. Fists and limbs constantly collide. A series of voices came out. Leorio's eyes widened. Leorio could no longer see the scene of the fight. Has Gon become so strong already? Liurio's expression was a little serious. Huasher Dolong, Liurio doesn't understand. But Gon Liurio understands. During the hunter exam, there was indeed a gap between the two, but the gap was not that big. Liurio thinks he can still catch up to Gon. But now, Liurio was shocked by the strength shown by Gon's 053. Did you want to become stronger after watching Gon? Liurio heard the sound and turned to look at Richard. Think. 35. However, I have other things I want to do. I want to get a formal medical qualification. I want to learn the medical knowledge that I expected before. 5 pretty good. Richard nodded and said, after you finish your studies, if you want to become stronger, you can come to me and I can teach you. 99. Then what do I have to pay? How about joining my team? Team. That's right, Richard said. Every mature nun needs a team, even if it is a very powerful nun, because of individual strength, after all. It is flawed, and it is impossible to cover everything. 5. No one can be the best at everything. Even Netero. No matter how strong Netero is, it will not have the space ability like Nob. Karaika is already building her own team. Gon's father, Kim Freaks, also has his own team. 99. Liurio hesitated. If it's a team, why don't I join Gon and Killua's team? They can also teach me that thing called chanting. Richard smiled. Liurio, ask yourself, are you really a good fit for the team of the two of them? Liurio fell silent. Chapter 136. Liurio's decision. Some people are suitable to be friends, but not necessarily suitable to be teammates. No matter how talented Gon and Killua were, Richard would not let them join his team. One was because of their backgrounds. Richard didn't know what the Hunter Association and the Zoldyck family were secretly planning. Another is their character. Gon's quality of not admitting defeat is good. But once it is too much, it will pull itself into the abyss. Not just myself, but even partners. As for Killua, because of Ilmi's arrangement, Killua is too stable. Facing the enemy, he can't give full play to his strength. In addition, Killua only considers the few people he cares about. Richard has no interest in gaining Killua's approval. Of the 4, only Liurio was the one Richard wanted to include on his team. Because of Liurio's healing ability, it may be used in many cases. I'll finish the doctor's course first, and then think about it. Whatever. Richard invited Liurio, but no, it had to be Liurio. The addition of Liurio is good for Richard's team. But for Liurio, it's also good. There are only a handful of people in this world that can be stronger and have more potential than Richard's team. Even in the plot, Liurio joined 12 hunter associations. However, 12 is just a broad organization, not a real team. All 12 have their own teams. Kim Freaks joined Yorkshire. It's all. Boom! I saw. Gon's eyes lit up suddenly. A flaw appeared in Gon's sight. Gon punched the hole with a punch. Huasher Dolong's expression changed. In fact, this cannot be considered a flaw. Because Gon wants to attack this flaw, he will inevitably suffer the attack of Huasher Dolong, which is equivalent to Gon adopting a tactic of killing 800 enemies and losing 2,000. Huasher Dolong thought that Gon would not do this. Didn't expect Gon to actually do that. The fists of the two fell at the same time. Huasher Dolong took 3 steps back. But that's all. And Gon flew upside down. Boom! It hit the wall hard. It bounced back and fell to the ground. His face was covered in blood. Huasher Doru rubbed his chest. Are you all right? I'm fine. 35. Gon struggled to get up, wanting to fight again. Come on, Gon. You've already lost. Richard's voice sounded. If you do not admit defeat, if you overdo it, you will become unable to lose. Richard didn't want Huasher Dolong to keep entangled with Gon here. Gon has lost. I lost. 35. There was a bleak look on Gon's face. The next step is left to me. Killua and Gon switched places and looked at Hanisher Doru with a serious expression. Gon is injured, making Killua less happy. Huasher Doru looked at Killua and raised his brows. Compared with Gon, Killua's breath is much stronger. This is inevitable. After all, in addition to fighting and reading, Killua also has assassination techniques. In the plot, Killua used assassination to threaten Sedeso when he just learned to entangle, so that Sedeso directly gave up the game and left the Sky Arena. This world, because Sedeso was killed by Richard, this thing didn't happen. But it can also be seen that the current Killua is stronger than Gon. Killua paced slowly. Some phantoms appeared behind Killua. Hua Dolong's eyes moved. Then let's fight quickly. Strong. A much stronger aura than before burst out from Hua Dolong's body. Killua's pupils shrank, only feeling a heavy pressure acting on his body. His body involuntarily felt fear and wanted to escape. Killua looked up. In front of him, it seems that it is no longer Hua Dolong, no longer a human being, and like a mountain, a wild beast. Killua found that it became difficult for him to even speak. It took a lot of effort to suppress the thought of running away. Hua Doru frowned, seeing that Killua's state was not right. If you can't fight, then forget it. Hua Dolong withdrew his momentum. Killua came back to his senses and gave Hua Dolong a deep look. I lost. Killua's self-confidence took a hit. Annoyed again. Obviously Gon can go up to fight with Hua Dolong, but he himself can't even move. Liurio was stunned. Why did you suddenly admit defeat? Gon stared at Hua Dolong, his eyes lit up. Is this Hua Dolong his true strength? Honmit Killua. Killua, are you all right? 35, fine. Killua shook her head. I really want to fight Hua Dolong in that state, but we're still a lot worse now, but I believe that we can definitely reach that level. Killua, let's do our best. Killua met honchais. Richard looked at the three of Gon and said, you lost. According to the agreement, I can't tell you what Kurapika is going to do. In addition, I have a suggestion for you. Nothing important, don't go out. This city is about to become dangerous. 95 before the three of Gon could speak, Richard and Hua Dolong had already left. Gon looked away. From Richard's words, Kurapika must be doing something very dangerous. Point 35 Gon looked at Killua and Liurio. I want to help Kurapika. Liurio hesitated for a while and said, but our strength can't do it. You have not even fought Hua Dolong just now. And I am even worse if we go, will we not only fail to help Kurapika, but also delay back of Li Hao legs? So look into it. Well, it's decided. Richard didn't expect things to be like this, and the three of Gon still wanted to participate in the Ukexin incident. But even if he knew, Richard wouldn't care about it. The reason why he lent Gon 20 billion yuan was just to sell face to the people behind Gon, and Richard knew that the money would soon be back in his hands. Has little effect. But there are more things Richard won't do. One is that Richard has no idea of being a nanny. The other is that Richard has already guessed that the Hunter Association and the Zoldyck family have made a lot of preparations for these two people. Richard is too close and will only be considered by them as having bad intentions. Such trouble, Richard will not take the initiative to provoke. Kurapika made a call. Richard, the auction is about to start. Come over to me. Give me an address. Chapter 137th Nyan. Once promised, subscribe. Betty, you can stay at the hotel with peace of mind. No matter who comes, don't open the door, understand? I see. Betty nodded heavily. Hua Dolong, let's go. Yes. The two drove to the place Kurapika said. A coffee shop. We're upstairs. Richard glanced up and saw Kurapika by the window. In addition to Kurapika, there are several statues. The Nathra family, in addition to employing Kurapika, employed several other guards. Besides, they have their own guards. However, the quality of the guards of the gangster family can be imagined. Not even the level of Een Beast. The third son of Singed, the guard that Cameron relies on, is just a Johnson. Such strength, whether it is placed in front of Een Beast or Phantom Troop, is far from enough to see. The Nasla family had the best luck in recruiting Kurapika as a guard. Of course, this is also mutually beneficial. Kurapika needs the power of the Nasra family. Nyan. Richard's eyes flickered. Some dusty memories floated up. Richard had met Nyan long ago. The gangster family from Richard and the gangster family from Nyan used to be close, but because of the rise of the Nasla family, the relationship between the two families gradually broke down. The two even had a baby kiss when they were young. Only after that, the Nasla family abandoned this agreement because Richard's family, to the Nasla family, has been unable to climb high. Because of Nyan's abilities, the Nathra family was able to rise. 35 Richard doesn't like the Nasra family. The same goes for Nyan. The decline of Richard's gangster family, in a sense, has something to do with the Nasla family. After all, there's so many resources. The Nasra family took it. There are naturally fewer other gangster families. But Richard is somewhat interested in Nine's abilities. Betty's ability comes from the medium of disaster creatures. The situation is very similar to that of Nine. Therefore, Richard guessed whether Nine also got the medium of some disaster creature, stole the power of the medium, and became a thief without realizing it. We're off. Nine Karapika texted Richard a little. After that, it is to look Ajfa to a car and drive out from it. Richard and Huasher Dolong drove to keep up. No suspicions aroused by the Nasra family, because there are many people going to the auction venue at the moment. Most of the tourists who come to Ukexin are to participate in this, the world's largest auction, dominated by world gangsters. At the auction, there will be a lot of things that are impossible to appear at ordinary times, even illegal collections. This is extremely attractive to those collectors. And at this time, the other side, Gon, Kiloa, Leorio also drove to the auction venue. I hope no one will compete with me, so that I can successfully photograph the client of the Island of Greed. Gon is looking forward, subconsciously reaching for the memory card in his pocket. For his father, Gon has always been curious and in pursuit. Become hunter also because of gold freaks. The same is true for clients who come to auction the Island of Greed now. It's definitely possible. Isn't the price that Leorio found out more than 10 billion ringni? Now we have borrowed 20 billion ringni from Richard. It's definitely no problem. But the three of them didn't even know how much money that person named Butra had prepared for this auction. No one can compete with Butra. All clients have transaction prices of more than 20 billion ringgits. And if someone will follow this price to more than 20 billion, then Butra will not hesitate to come up with 30 billion yuan. This price is far beyond the value of the Greed Island client itself. Richard has a little interest in the Island of Greed, but not for this game. It's about how to make this game. This is a real world, and everything is driven by none. But it is very difficult to achieve this level of personal thought. There must be other secrets. After Ukersin's affairs are over, you can enter the Greedy Island game. This game is not difficult, and the level of players in it is limited, but it is suitable for Prung Si and Betty. Richard made a judgment on the players in Greed Island. Jway's Jula and Bomb Demon definitely did not reach the level of ordinary members of the brigade.
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.